Okay.
Hey guys, we got a fun one for you tonight. We got lil'E sitting in with us tonight. He's a rock and rolling third grader.
Hi.
We'll get his insight on some of this. This might actually be randomly interesting because of what happened this week. So we'll ask him about it. I ain't scared. We're almost in agreement at gmail.com. You can find us on Facebook, on Twitter, or on YouTube. You can go to our website, almostinagreement.com, and get all the available episodes or any of your favorite podcast providers. We're on most of them. If you happen to have a podcast provider you like that you can't find us on, let us know at the almostinagreement at gmail.com, and I'll see if I can figure out how to get on there for you. While you're in any of these places, please like, share, subscribe, follow, friend, retweet, 5-star review. Tell your friends about us. We're trying to get more listeners so that we can do more shows to make it more informational and educational and or entertaining. Oh, I just said that word. Excuse me. Also on the website, almostinagreement.com/cityelections21, you can get my city election cheat sheet. It's just a quick breakdown. Who's running, links to KGIS and election commission. So you could, if you have any questions, you should be able to get most of your answers through that resource. So here we go. Welcome, lil'E. Sorry, lil'E's here with me. So
Little E.
You got to get on that microphone, bro. I can't hear you.
Sorry.
No, you got to pull it towards your face.
Is this good?
I don't know. Say it.
Better.
Hello?
Okay.
Okay.
All right. So we had some big stuff going on around in Knox County Schools this week that you had to deal with. You didn't have school on Monday.
Yes, that is true.
And that's so the schools could set up their program for implementing the newly required mask mandate. And so you had to wear masks all week at school this week for the first time this year.
Yes.
Yes. What did you think about it?
I think it was fun, but one of my, frenemies at school said that it's a word that I don't want to say on YouTube.
Okay, what's a synonym for that word? Synonym. What's a word that means the same thing, but it's a word that you're willing to say?
I don't think there's anything else.
Oh, there's got to be something else.
I'll just say the first.
Just say the word, man.
I really hope this is.
Can I get in trouble for having my kids swear on the radio?
I don't think so.
Okay.
It's HE double hockey sticks. He said that masks are HE double hockey sticks.
Masks are hell?
Yes.
Why did he say that?
Because he said that masks don't matter in either way if you wear them or not, that you can get the coronavirus, which is not true. And one thing is that so during recess, him and his friends, they'd play together, but sometimes I'd see them playing a game that I really want to play. But the only reason I can't be in it is because Colton is not my friend, which I think is unfair, because I know Baylor is, sort of one of my friends.
You're right. Okay, so but let's back it up. We're not saying who said the masks are hell, but I want to understand what you think about the masks and having to wear the masks again after having worn them all year last year, and then you started this year hey, no masks anymore, cool. And then all of a sudden they're like, hey, you got to wear your mask again. Let's start with this. How many of your friends in your class been wearing masks since the beginning of school this year?
About 3 or 4, I'd say.
Okay, have been wearing them all year anyway. And then now, starting this week, everybody's wearing them.
Yes.
Were any of your friends missing in class this week? All week?
I don't believe, because we got rocks, which is basically if every 5 days, if every day all of your class shows up,
right,
you get an ROCK and then an S, then you get an extra thing, which for today we got, I think we got to bring a tiny stuffed animal, but I think that actually 1 or 2 people were not here on Tuesday, I think.
You got the rocks party even though all the kids weren't there?
No, I don't think. I think 2 of them were from last week. And speaking of last week, my birthday party was on the weekend of that
That's true,
day.
but your actual birthday is next week. But that's an aside. So So you've only had a couple kids miss maybe a couple days this week, is what I'm understanding from what you just said.
Yeah, it's like I believe that like 3 or 4 people were missed on Tuesday, and then 2 days of last week.
Do you know if if any of your friends came without masks and they wouldn't let them come to the classroom?
Everyone had to wear masks, period. But some people would.
Wait a minute, did you just burp?
Yes.
Gross.
That's why I said sorry.
That's fine. It's polite to excuse yourself. I always blame it on the dog. You know that.
Yeah, I know. But some people, I don't know if it was on purpose or not, would just take down their masks because they were like, I can't do this anymore. I cannot breathe. Which, I don't wear masks all that much. I usually wear gaiters whenever I have to wear masks, because they work the same and you can breathe. Like, masks are made of more thick of the material that they make out of masks.
Right.
Like, when gaiters are, when you stretch them, you can see holes to breathe through.
Right.
Which I think is really nice of the people who made gaiters.
They're stretchy,
yeah.
And the fabric thins out when you stretch it. That is the way those things are.
Sorry.
No, you're fine. Like I said, I'm just curious because there's been some what's a good word for this here? There's been some contention. Do you know what contentious means?
Nah, not really. When did you learn that word?
Oh, I don't know when I learned that word. Probably after 3rd grade, if I'm honest.
Yeah, I feel
what's a good word that I could use? I'm struggling.
Contentious?
Yeah, there's been a lot of argument. There's been a lot of discussion over this re-implementation of masks going on with parents and school board and principals and teachers and stuff like that. And so I was curious to get your viewpoint on how it was for you and your classmates.
Some, half, 7-ish people out of 17 people who are in my class, 7-ish people are, 6-ish people just on the bottom would not do anything in their will to not wear a mask. And our teacher was mostly like, hey, you have to wear a mask for safety protocols. And they'd wear it for another half hour or so, and then just take it back down, and that'd repeat for
all day.
Half or all of the day. Yeah.
Okay, so let me ask you this. I know you have different kids in your class each year, but did you have kids that were doing that last year too?
Well, no, not really. Most people last year just didn't like masks a ton at, the first, 18-ish weeks of school, but then they just were okay,
Okay, so what you're thinking,
yeah.
what you're thinking is that your friends this year just got used to not having them, and they're having to take the time to get used to wearing them again.
Yeah, which I believe, I don't know if it's true, but I believe that next week, that we'll do non-masks, and then we'll keep on doing that until they decide.
No, you will be wearing a mask for I was actually talking to Daniel Watson from school board today about it. There is no deadline for the current mask mandate. It will go on as long as the judge says so.
Okay.
But that's a whole other side. I mean, I don't know. It's not your favorite. I understand that, but is it world changing? Is it the end of the world having to wear a mask?
No, but to Colton, I think it is.
Well, we're not talking to Colton. We're talking to you.
I know.
But I mean, again, they're not my favorite thing to wear either. But it's not it's not killing me. It's not oh, this sucks so bad.
I know. Also, can I tell the audience what the theme of my birthday party was?
You can. I suppose we can be done with this topic and move on. Go ahead.
Okay. The theme is of it was Minecraft.
Uh-huh.
And my cake, it was a
Enderman.
It was a chocolate cake, and it had fondant on it to make like little pixels to make it look like a grass block.
It was a thick cake. Like it was like a good 10-inch tall.
I'm surprised you said the word fondant. I don't think I learned that
why
maybe like 15, 20 years ago.
Where do you know the word fondant from?
I know it from both my mom saying it and both from Nailed It.
Nailed it!
Yeah.
That show is great.
Yeah, like, the only person who really actually nailed it was the person who, like, was the person in the first episode, and the only thing he got wrong was he didn't have time to finish his character's skin, like skin color.
Rowdy is introducing the return of the other kid. All right, your brother's home. Mm-hmm. Can you go help him get settled and maybe play a game of Minecraft with him or something to settle in, or do you want to keep going?
I'd like to keep going for a little bit.
Okay. What are you barking at, dog?
I think he's just barking at, like, Dylan's family car.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I think he hears.
It might be AC showing up.
Yeah, maybe.
He just texted me, said he's on his way. No, what did he say? Oh, baby's not getting to sleep, so he's not in right now. So, no worries. We'll do what we do. So, all right. I don't know. Like, we do a lot of stuff on the show. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to think of stuff that you might be interested in that may apply to what we generally talk about. Sam, you got anything you think of? The kids' perspective on. What do you think about this infrastructure bill that Biden's trying to push through?
Can I say something first that it's not about exactly like.
That's fine. I don't expect you to know anything about that.
Yeah. I love, like, whenever you're driving me to school in your car, you're like playing podcasts, and I really like that because I like the podcasts, but most of the time I don't understand. Like I hear what you're saying, just I don't understand.
Oh, when I'm listening to myself, don't tell everybody that, man. That makes me look like a creeper.
I don't understand the things because I don't really know much.
Good, man.
About what
Don't.
you're talking about.
You're probably better off not understanding them for the rest of your life.
Okay.
It's really a sad, frustrating life that we live here when you get old.
I like listening to like you, Sam, and everyone else on the podcast.
Well, I appreciate that. Was he? Do we get to count him as a listener?
Absolutely.
Sweet. That puts us at 5.
He was listening. He counts.
Like, I'm a listener, and sometimes I'll be in the podcast.
Every once in a while.
Make sure you like and subscribe.
There you go.
Well, on my Switch, I can't do it because
the YouTube doesn't let you the way it works.
The only way YouTube could is by you and Mom, Seth. That's your name.
I know, that's fine. It's just funny. Like, yeah, I usually get it's mildly offensive when you call me Seth, but that's okay. It's inside the format of what we're doing, and that's all right. Don't feel bad.
You and Mom, probably Mom,
right?
Would have to. Well,
when's the last time you actually watched like a TV show, like on TV live as it's going on?
Sometimes I'd watch Jeopardy with you before I hop onto my Switch, but I haven't really seen one other than like a TV show thing-ish on YouTube.
Yeah, like I don't anymore either. Other than sports, I don't watch.
Yeah, like
any actual television. It's all YouTube streaming or Netflix or Hulu or one of them.
Not even local news.
No, local news is terrible.
Yeah.
I mean, I go through the app and I'll watch some of their videos on their app sometime, and I'll read some of the stories through their app sometimes, try to get a feel on stuff, but it's, I don't know, they're just not very good.
After I got my Switch, and Eli did, like, I feel like the only show we'd watch is, like, occasionally, like, the same show, like, every once in a while. But other than else, we mostly stayed on our Switch because we had YouTube for free.
Right. All right, I got a question for you. What are you going to be when you grow up?
I think I'm gonna become a YouTuber or something else.
Thought that might.
What are you gonna like? Okay, so we've talked about this, and obviously from doing the podcast and stuff, we have some of the equipment here, and we could make something work. And I've been, who was it? Lauren Ryder was grilling me on that, and she's like, "Well, help him do a podcast." And I was like, "Yeah, but I want it scripted. I want to know what I'm doing when I sit down with him." She's like, "You don't script anything. Why do they have to?" And it's like, "Because I'm working." And so that's my rule, and I'm happy too. And I'll even go so far as to promote your YouTube channel on our podcast with all 6 listeners of ours, and to try to get them to do so. But I want to know what the theme is. Like, okay, so of your shows that you like to watch, right? Your YouTube shows, do they usually stay thematically? Like, are they usually what are some of the names of the shows? Like, I know the what is the one?
Ed's World.
Yeah, and Ed's World's a cartoon, and it's just kind of like
It's like
just little mini funny story cartoon. Like
it's funny story cartoons that, like, half of the time it won't make sense.
And then there's that pretty girl that you watch all the time. She does like reaction videos where she's watching other videos and like talking about
Sniper Wolf.
I guess.
Is it the guy with?
No, I said the girl.
Yeah, girl. Sorry. Is it the girl with black hair who's always?
I don't know. I just hear it. I don't watch it with you. I just see it or hear it as I walk by.
I'm pretty sure that it's Sniper Wolf.
Okay. Is that the kind of show you want to do, or you wanted to do a creative show like the cartoon where you're actually doing stories?
What I think I do is when I grow up, I do Fortnite and Minecraft and a couple other games that either my people who are watching
suggest games that they want you to do.
Yeah, like if
all right, I'll figure out. I got to figure out how to get the gaming system hooked up, and so it's gonna be one of those where you like, because I know the Minecraft ones, a lot of them are like dudes that are like they'll do like 100 days, and then they'll edit. They'll do 100 days. They'll record it, and then they'll edit it down. But they still are kind of telling a story.
Yeah.
And so what we did, what I did, what it took me to do for 100 days, and so they edit it down, and then they narrate it.
Yeah,
it's a lot of writing.
Like Luke the Notable. And can I tell you?
I need to put all these. I need to make sure to hashtag all these in the when I release this to get some. Get some tags in here. See if we can't pick up a few people from their followers.
I forgot what I was going
to say.
But I'd probably listen to Almost at Agreement on YouTube too, because he's my father, and I really think you should check him out. He is a cool YouTuber.
Yes, I'm gonna have to edit that out and make it his own video. That's genius.
I think that would be something nice to help both your channel grow, and if you shouted out my channel, then that'd help my channel.
That's right.
Grow.
Altruism is not dead, people. That's good stuff. All right, man. I appreciate you sitting in with us. Why don't you head on up and get some Switch time in before bedtime?
Okay.
All right, man. I love you.
Love you. Speaking of bedtime, how long until bedtime?
5 minutes.
5 minutes ago, technically.
Do you mean weekdays or weekend days?
It's weekend days. You got a little while. You need to go. You need to go get ready for bed, and you need to go brush your teeth. But you don't have to go to bed yet.
I will. Didn't you say I could have been here for like 30?
It's about 30 minutes. Yes, I said about 30 minutes. Okay. Jeez. So the reality here, people, is my kids are going to be lawyers, both of them.
How do you know?
Because you're super good at nitpicking everything. Your brother's better at being extremely literal, like painfully extremely literal. Drives me crazy.
I know, and sometimes it drives me crazy too, but bye, Dad.
All right, buddy. I love you. Have a good night.
Thank you for joining us.
Goodbye.
Little Easy-E.
Easy-E. All right, that was fun. That was my youngest, my little Easy-E, sitting in with us. I don't know. He just wanted to be on the show, and why not? So we did. I don't know. That's kind of interesting. Like, a couple of his friends are like semi-anti-maskers.
Yeah.
It has been a crazy thing to follow.
It's not surprising.
I mean, it isn't. Like, I don't.
I mean, kids aren't that independent. They take a lot of their social cues from their parents.
I mean, I get that. I just don't understand. I thought
it was crazy. There was a couple stories. I think it was leading up to, I guess, Tuesday or whatever. And I can't remember what school it was, but they interviewed some lady for Channel 10. That basically said she was still going to take her kid to school, and she wasn't going to wear a mask, and she was still going to take her kid to school without a mask, and basically she didn't care. She knew that was the rules, but she was going to defy it anyway.
Right. There's a lot of people that did it. I mean, I was like, okay, so there's Parents Against, I forgot what it is, Knox County or Knoxville Against Mandates or something like that Facebook group, and I hopped in there. Yeah. And so I have the Speak group and the Parents Against group or whatever that I'm both a part of.
Just continually to keep tagging one into the other.
Yeah, it's a vicious cycle. But I mean, it's interesting just to watch the way they talk to themselves, for lack of a better word. In
the echo chamber.
Well, sort of, not so much the echo chamber. It's like, we need to be organized, we need to be firm, but we need to be polite. It's a lot of that stuff. Like, they're really trying to be appropriately active in what they're doing. They're like, at least conversationally through this stuff. Apparently there's one guy that was talking about blocking the driveway to the schools and like buses couldn't come in and some crazy shit like that. Right. And that's what got a bunch of attention. And so like the whole group got painted into this, they want to physically keep kids out of school and stuff like that. And it's like, that one guy said he does, but I don't know if they do, but maybe, but so like, but then like every time they reference the other Facebook group, like this is like straight up like what's the West Side Story? Sharks and
Sharks and Jets.
Yeah, it's the Sharks and Jets, like straight on. Like everything they do, it's like every time there's this fear that there's a mole in the group. There's all sorts of references, and this is both sides. This isn't one or the other. But there's one of them.
They don't suspect you because all they can do is click on your thing and see what other pages you're a part of.
Yeah, I mean, I am the mole, I guess, because I'm
like, no, I'm just playing both sides.
Right. It's just very interesting to because within the circle, they seem to be, generally speaking, regardless of their end goal, on the up and up about what they're wanting to do, being active, emailing, calling, doing all the appropriate, political, governmental exchange things, going out and not, organizing on the edge of school property because they're not allowed to be on school property to do their protest kind of things, that they're on the sidewalks on the corners, but they're not going onto school property because they know they can. They're having full conversations about this, as does the Speak group about stuff. And and especially the Speak group spend more on the mask mandate side of the argument. And so at the beginning of the school year, when we weren't in masks, they were in the same conversations of what do we need to do to get it through to the schools that they need to have their kids in masks to keep the kids safe and this, that, and the other. And they were conversating about, how do we organize? Who are the people we email? This kind of stuff. And it was a lot of that same thing going on, just with different ends. But now that I'm watching both of them, and now that the Parents Against Mandates or whatever this other group is, is active, it's like the Speak group is like, those Parents Against Mandates are trying to block the school buses, and they're the evil, stupid idiots, and this, that, and the other. And then the people in the other group are like, those Speak people think that they can do whatever they want, tell us what to do with their lives, and blah, 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 blah. And it's like, inside their own bubble, they're trying to play by what's generally considered the societal norms of how to deal with a situation like we're in, as far as the political and how to get your voice heard kind of thing.
I mean, I was surprised we started the school year without the policies that were in place last year, when going into the school year, our numbers were the worst they had ever been.
Right, and I really, really think that's Bob Thomas. As far as I understand it, the way, I talked to Daniel today, not specifically about that,
right,
but we were talking about the new superintendent search and some other stuff. And as I've talked to different people about it, because the board said back in April that we're doing what the Tennessee Board of Health asked for, which is essentially whatever the CDC is asking for from now until we change this rule. And that rule was never changed.
Which, wasn't it on like a sliding scale last year? Did it have to do with what community spread was at the time?
I don't think so. Okay, not the schools part of it.
Yeah, I was thinking of some other kind of policy. That basically masks were in place until it got below, 20% infection rate or something like that.
I don't know. That's a good question. I don't remember that specific.
I thought that was part of it.
But for whatever reason, we get to summer school, they stop doing it, and nobody says anything about it. And then we start the school year doing the summer school policies, which nobody complained about. And we had the largest summer school class we've ever had because every kid was eligible for summer school because every kid was behind because every kid had lost a quarter of a year and a half ago.
What was the summer school? That's right. Yeah, the mask policy ended the last day of school, right?
Right, ended in May because there was a big deal right there in late April, early May because the state of emergency was coming off, and the school board met and said, "Hey, let's just get out of the school year,
right,
and we'll let things change over the summer." So anyway, so my understanding of it was that Bob Thomas said we got through it. We went through the summer and nobody said anything about not having masks. We're going to continue to not have masks, and that's where we were. But again, as I understand it, the school board said we're doing what the CDC says, and the CDC says we should be wearing masks. So the argument is in that interpretation of does Bob Thomas get to make that decision unilaterally, or does he have to follow the board's recommendation, which is the CDC's recommendation? And so that's where the confusion was, I think. And then Governor Lee jumps in, throws the opt-out policy on there, which basically means why bother?
Yeah.
Because half the kids are going to opt out, or half the kids' parents are going to opt out, or some percentage of the kids' parents are going to opt out anyway. So the whole, everybody wears a mask to protect everybody doesn't work when most of the kids aren't wearing masks. But also, like the other issue with the current one is there's only 2 exemptions.
Yeah, I saw there. I didn't see what the medical exemption was.
Autism and tracheotomies. I don't know how many school-age kids have had tracheotomies.
I've seen some trach scars on kids.
But essentially, that was what was in the lawsuit. So the kids that were involved in the lawsuit,
right?
The kids of the families that were involved in the lawsuit, those were the ones that their lawyer was advocating for. This is their disability that the school is not doing an appropriate job protecting them from. Or that them not, right, yeah. These are the disabilities that my clients have that need help, that need reasonable care by the school board, which we consider masking to be reasonable care. These are the things. So that's why it's only 2, where last year it was like 60. There were like 60 exemptions.
I mean, I don't know about the specifics of the lawsuit. I don't know if autism was a part of the lawsuit.
No. Wait, what did I say?
Autism.
Yeah, that's correct.
Or it might be one of the opt-out policies, but
that was part of that. Whatever the disabilities, as Daniel explained to me earlier today, which for you guys listening earlier a couple days ago, as he explained to me earlier today, the exemptions that the judge put in were the conditions that the doctor that was part of the lawsuit hearing had mentioned as a specific. Okay. So my assertion in that is that doctor mentioned it because the students who were the plaintiffs filing suit against Knox County Schools were one or the other or some combination of those 2 conditions.
I'm curious to find would it be a brief that the judge writes afterwards? I think it's like
I've seen it.
eight-page ruling or something.
Yeah, I don't know. I've seen it around. I'd have to re-find it, but okay, sheep people. Anyway, well, hell.
Becky Massey.
Apparently, all these parents go to bed because they are going crazy all day, and then it gets to nighttime and they all go to sleep. All right. Anyway, yeah. So I'm kidding. It's weird. I like that, but what I was telling lil'E earlier, there is no end date on this. And the way Daniel explained it to me today, he's like, it's likely the actual. So the mandate is a pre-hearing injunction, or some legal term, which is basically the judge says there's enough here for a case. We're putting this in place to kind of freeze the picture until we can actually hold hearings for this lawsuit. And so we don't even know when the date of the actual suit hearings start. This was just a pretrial thing.
Preliminary injunction, is that what they call it?
So this is a pretrial thing, and so we don't even know when the trial date is yet, let alone the trial ends and then whatever occurs on the other side.
There's also one in place for Davidson and Shelby.
I know Shelby's suing the Governor Lee's office. I don't know about...
Davidson has a mask mandate for the school system right now as well.
Yeah. I mean, so does Bradley, whatever Chattanooga's in. We're the only of the big five that doesn't have one, or the big four that doesn't have one. Well, didn't have one.
I can't remember what county, Chattanooga.
I want to say Bradley County. I'm sticking to it. I might be wrong, but Bradley County, bitches.
Whether you like it or not.
Yeah, it's Bradley County now. I said so. But right, the time, like and so like again, the way Daniel described it to me the other day, it's like, you know, if somehow through some miracle of science or whatever, we went to 0 cases tomorrow, mask mandate stays in place next week for school.
Really?
Yeah. Stays in the week after that until the judge says otherwise. Like, it's all of this judge. This judge can do, essentially at this point on this topic, he can do whatever he wants. And he can change his rulings or he can adjust things as he sees fit. Which again is weird to me. Like, just some of the little legal issues. Again, it's not about the end for me. It's the conversation of how this thing's all working and are we okay with how these things are all working. And so, like, the state of Tennessee, and this is one of the things that the state of Tennessee has had a problem with because they're trying to control Shelby and Davidson County schools, but they have to do it for all counties because the state of Tennessee Constitution says you cannot put a law into place in the state of Tennessee that isn't for all counties in the state. You can't just say Davidson County, you can't do that. Okay. You have to say all counties, you can't do that. That's why we have this stupid single virtual school option this year, because Shelby County really liked it, and they were trying to expand their virtual schooling regardless of the pandemic part of it. Don't know why, don't know what their reasoning was for, but the State Board of Education and Governor Lee's office are like, no, that's not okay. We're not letting you do that. And that's why they went to this. You get one middle, one high, one elementary school virtual model that we're in now.
See why they would have issue with it. I mean, people already homeschool.
I don't know why they. I don't.
I mean, I'm sure there was a number of students that learned more at doing homeschool or doing the virtual.
Right,
virtual learning versus.
I could see for some students it being a much better option, but I don't know. You know, again, I don't know. I don't know what the reason is behind it. Yeah. But from my understanding, that's the whole point of why we have this half virtual option, where we don't have the expanded virtual option that we had last year because the state said so. So the legal curiosity I have about this mask thing is, again, as I understand it, what we call Knox County Schools, their real title should be Tennessee State Schools, Knox County Division. That should be the actual title on the wall and everywhere else, because that's what they are. They're Tennessee State Schools, and it's just this Knox County subset that gets to handle some stuff here locally. And so, legally speaking, how can a judge implement something on a portion of a state body and not the entire state? Because it's essentially what it is. Knox County Schools is one of 116, however many counties we have.
Well, I wonder if part of that was the scope of the lawsuit that was brought. I don't know much about it. I don't know if they sued the state, but I'm pretty sure they just sued Knox County Schools,
Knox County government,
right?
Mayor Jacobs,
right?
I don't think they sued the commission, but I guess they did.
I'm assuming the judge wouldn't have the power to broaden that scope to apply that.
But my point is, Knox County Schools is not an entity. They're not a standalone entity of themselves. They are a division of state schools. They're not. That's my point is that they are not a separated entity from Anderson County or Davidson County or Shelby County or anybody else. They're just a separate.
They don't make decisions that are exclusive to them and not the surrounding counties
on very particular small part issues. Not on. I mean, they can't change what they are subject to what the state tells them they can and can't do. I mean, they're very there's a very small window of what they're allowed to do as dictated by the state. Okay. And so, that's my...
so they aren't autonomous?
No, not really. Maybe semi... I would give them a semi at best.
Okay.
But I just don't like... I don't think it's... On the specific of the case being the mask thing, the state... It was... The state said you couldn't, essentially. Well, no, they didn't say you couldn't. I don't see... That's what's weird about it. No county in the state was supposed to be
it was all filed basically under the Americans with Disability Act that it restricted the access to those with disabilities.
Which in a really hateful way, it's like, I don't understand. Like, I'd heard a rumor of like 2 of the plaintiffs in the case were virtual students. And it's like, well, how are you going to complain about kids not wearing masks in school when you're not going to school anyway? That might be, that I heard it. I don't know that for a fact.
Right.
But I thought I want to say it was attached to a WBR article, but I do not recall where I saw that.
Depending on the health condition, they may have, once they saw that school season was going in and there was the opt-out policy, they may have said, okay, I don't know what the policy is this year, if they can start virtual and switch, or if it's like it was last year that once you go virtual, there's no going back.
Well, I mean, no, with the new system, it is you're in a new school.
That's right. Yeah.
Like you're not, you're not attached to your districted school.
Right.
You're at a completely new school. That did remind me of a new topic, but if we want to move on, we were talking about redistricting a couple weeks ago and how like, I don't really see the point in giving a shit about redistricting around here because it's not going to really change anything.
Yeah. Has something changed your mind?
Well, yeah, Daniel made a good point to me earlier today because apparently this is a review episode of the Daniel episode I did earlier today.
I almost listened to
a couple days ago.
I was perusing Facebook and I was like, oh, he's just doing an episode.
Yeah, I do them all the time.
And I was like, well, I'll leave work in 2 hours. I'm like, eh.
But he, it does make a difference. I mean, they're in Knox County, the school board seats and the county commission seats are the same.
I've heard a couple other people mention that.
And so
but they try to kind of be similar.
It's not try. It's they are by law they are the same. They can be separated and be separate. But for simplification's sake, somebody in the past said, "Hey, why don't we just make them the same district?" So people like me who complain all the time about how I'm District 2, well, I'm not quite District 2. If I was in the city, I'd be District 2, County District 4, School Board District 4, State Rep 18, State Senate 6, and I got to figure out all these different parts and pieces. Just for simplification's sake, let's at least put two of those together as one geographical area. Problem being is some of the adjustments the county's trying to make for commission could theoretically give District 4 no middle schools and no high schools. Which I think Bearden has to be in District 4. But West is currently in 4, but West would come out of 4 on the most talked about plan right now.
Can't remember who it was. There was somebody you were interviewing that she said that she doesn't have any middle schools.
Virginia, District 4. Yeah, okay. Virginia Bab. Yeah. She doesn't have a middle school. Bearden Middle School, where my kids are going to go, is in District 3. Because Middlebrook, I'm pretty sure Middlebrook is the line between 3 and 4. And Bearden Middle is on the corner of Middlebrook and whatever, but it's on the other side. And so my kids are also zoned for West High School, which if one of the plans, I think 2 or 3 of the 5 plans that have been discussed in redistricting, West High School is going to come out of 4 and go into 3. And so I am firmly in District 4, and I can vote for Virginia Bab. And the feeling I'm getting is, and I didn't think it was that way, but the feeling I'm getting is that they do truly have at least Virginia will have direct relationships with her principals that are in her district. And so if a principal or a teacher or a parent for me at Rocky Hill, if I have an issue at Rocky Hill and I want to go to the school board with it, I can talk to Virginia Bab and she's going to know the names.
Right.
She's going to know the people involved. She's going to know who to contact about X, Y, and Z. Where I know Daniel Watson now, so it's not going to be that big a deal for me, but I'm not voting for Daniel Watson, but he's going to have the relationship with my middle school teachers and my middle school principal. Yeah. And so if I have a problem there, I have to go find him if I wasn't doing this. And so I can see that as an issue. So on the redistricting part of the conversation, the entire county commission is on the redistricting board. Christy, the school board chair, is the only school board member that is on the board of redistricting. Suffice to say that county commission is going to get their way on redistricting. It's not going to be, there's a couple other bodies in there, but as they're doing these redistricting, it's really going to come down to what county commission wants to do. And, like most of the residents of the county, they don't care about that much about what the schools are doing or what the schools want. And so, I don't know. I'd be hard pressed to think of a political way or like a political gerrymandering way to redistrict. I don't know. I don't know the school parts that well. to think of that in the political part of gerrymandering it for the school board's sake, to get the school board to move X, Y, or Z.
Right.
But, I mean, I don't know. I say that, but the school board's 5-4 votes. They've been 5-4 votes on the last couple of major issues. And so redistricting is a big deal for school board. It's not a big deal for county commission.
Christy just got it. Does that mean her seat's now at large, or did someone? I'm assuming there's an interim that took her spot.
No, they okay. So I mean,
or the chair is always just a member of.
Right. All the bodies do it periodically. I don't know what their time frames are, but periodically they do a reorganizing, and so Larson J is going to get booted as the Larson J just got booted as county commission chair and got replaced with Biggs. But I think it's every year they have one meeting where they're like, hey, everybody's gonna change seats. You don't change seats. That's not the right words. I mean, they're gonna physically change seats in the room because of where where the chair sits. Right, the chair sits right in the middle of the room. Everybody else moves around them, but they go in order around the arch there. It's like so. Lundy's one, so she sits in the far left corner, and then Courtney's two.
Nobody keeps.
Do it.
Sorry, I was going to do a Dirty Dancing reference, but
but they work their way around the room from left to right in order, and then the at-larges are on the far right, except for the middle section is the chair and the vice chair, and then I think the law director sits in the middle section. And so if Kyle, District 4, normally sits in seat 4, if he got the chair, he sits in the chair, and then seat 4 becomes seat 5, and then it moves the rest of the way around. That's stupid. I don't know why that's important. Actually, I do know why that's important. I don't know why it's important. It's just something to talk about. But it is weird. Like, it goes back to, I was thinking about the Gloria Johnson thing in the stupid office.
Oh, yeah.
Her stupid office debacle. I think that is something that won't ever happen because we have the super Republican state legislature. But I think it should just be, here's our office block. Room 112 is District 18's room. That's it. That's whoever is in District 18, that's their office. It shouldn't be, well, here's the Republican set, here's the Democrat set, here's the independent set, because those guys are fucking weird. It should just be, Room 1 is District 1. Room 2 is District 2. It doesn't matter who's elected to that seat or what party they're affiliated with. It should just be that office. I think it's so logical, it's stupid. That's how dumb politics is that like the most simple logical thing, like, hey, where's my office? Oh, you have the District 18 office. It's room 18.
All right.
Like, that's not the normal way we would do things. Why would that not be the normal thing? Because that's a Democrat now. They have to be in the other building. Get them out of here.
They're all in the same building, right?
I don't know. I don't know how they, like, I know in D.C. they're separate. Well, they're same building but separate wings. So I had Manis on this week too.
I listened to that episode,
and he did before we recorded the episode, he did a video with me for a Scouts thing we were doing, and I referenced it in the episode. But so I sent an email out to all the parents and stuff. I was like, hey, I got Eddie Manis. I'm going to do a video with him. We're going to talk about government, blah blah blah. If your kids have any questions, shoot them over. I'll add them to my thing. Like, it's the only time I've done a scripted episode, and we didn't do a very good job of that anyway. But like, I actually wrote out some of the questions that I wanted to do to follow the lesson plan that Scouts had for it. Mm-hmm. But then I had like the final section was like questions from Scouts. And so I had all these different questions, and one of them was like, well, what's it like working in the Capitol building? And it was really a bummer answer from Eddie. It's like, he's like, to be honest with you, I go down there, I go to my office. There's a tunnel that goes from the office complex into the Capitol building. We go on the floor, we do the thing. I go to the tunnel, go back to my office, and I go out. I don't ever go around and look around at anything and do it. There's so much cool stuff in that building. I know about it. I've been in there, but I haven't, since I took the seat, I haven't had time for it. It's just, I'm there, I do my thing, and I get out. So that's a bummer.
Pretty sure I went there in 7th grade when we did a tour of Nashville. We were going to a really cool natural history museum in Nashville, but I think we visited the Capitol as well.
I don't know. Chicago's my favorite natural history museum. Shed Aquarium, and anyway. Yeah. That's a good aquarium, too. It used to be. I don't know. It's been a while. I don't know. I was a kid, too.
I want to go see the Atlanta Aquarium. Heard that.
I haven't done the Atlanta one. We did Chattanooga a couple years ago.
It's supposed to be like one of the biggest in the Southeast? Or?
I thought the Chattanooga one was.
Now, I'm pretty sure Atlanta has like a bigger tank.
I know that if I understand the story correctly, that Chattanooga Aquarium is supposed to be in Knoxville. The developers wanted to put it here. And the city didn't play ball.
I went to it before they like redesigned it. It used to not be, I mean, it was still nice, but it wasn't as nice as it is now.
See, I'm curious, like, the Ripley's down in the Smokies and the Tennessee Aquarium, I'm pretty sure this would be a very interesting story if somebody would follow up for me, because I'm not going to do it. But I'm pretty sure that Ripley's one is a fully private enterprise, where fully private in the sense that they don't have like programs where they use college students and stuff like that. Like, you got a lot of stuff around here that like UT and the zoo have a relationship,
right?
And the city of Knoxville pays a ton of money to keep the zoo open, as well as UT provides students to both get their education but also clean up fucking monkey shit and whatever. But I'm pretty sure Ripley's is a fully independent private aquarium, where the Tennessee Aquarium down in Chattanooga is like the zoo is to Knoxville. And so like UT Chattanooga has students that do stuff there and this, that, and the other. And so like I'm curious, I'd be curious to follow the financial trail of those two business entities, where one is subsidized by the state one, the Tennessee Aquarium in Chattanooga, where Ripley's, I'm pretty sure, is a fully private enterprise.
I would say so. Or they make a lot more money that way.
Who does?
Ripley's Corporation or whatever.
Right, but they're paying their bills. They're not getting subsidies and shit. Like I would assume that the Chattanooga one makes more money because they have a bunch of help. They get free shit, for lack of a better word. That Ripley's doesn't. You know what I mean? Like, they have a deal with the university to get interns that do work for free or for discount.
Right. I'd also say there's probably an agreement with Gatlinburg.
I'd be curious.
They got tax incentives to come there.
I agree with you. I'm just saying I'd be curious to follow those kind of financial trades down there, because I'm pretty sure that, I don't know, like if you're Pigeon Forge, are you throwing tax incentives like that out?
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like there's a threshold somewhere in there where you're like, we don't need to give it away anymore. The companies are going to want to come here because we have the customer base here. Entertainment companies. Oh shit! I used that word again. That's twice tonight. Unprompted, I used the word entertainment.
I mean, it's always been a touristy spot, but I think it's also, I'd say it's probably grown since the Ripley's Aquarium and some of the other big things have come in. And they've always had, attractions there.
Yeah, that's a fair point. It might be the aquarium might be the exemption to the rule. They don't play that game because. Yeah, I get it.
10 years ago, I think the only Ripley's thing was the Ripley's Believe It or Not little store.
Which is cool.
Yeah.
Weird.
I forget about it from time to time, but do you find it odd that, I guess, like the actual name for the Knoxville Zoo is Zoo Knoxville?
I don't know. I mean, a little bit. I don't know.
I forget about it a lot. I always call it the Knoxville Zoo.
I do too. Yeah, that would be the word, the phrasing.
I hear like when the people in the know talk about it, they're like, "Yeah, Zoo Knoxville." I'm like, "Wait, oh yeah, that is the name." I'm like,
"Well, I mean,
why the hell do we call it that?"
It's like our dumbass. What's it called?
It's like we're a subsidiary of a zoo corporation.
Right.
We're the Knoxville branch of the zoo.
Maybe. But it's just one of those, like, what's the soccer team called that's going to play in Boyd Stadium?
Oh, I already forgot.
Knoxville,
the one Knoxville.
One Knoxville. It's just like, it's kind of weird. It's some hipster bullshit.
I don't know if it was full, public input, and they were like, all right, that's what the public voted on. That's what
I know there's a couple of that there were good ones, but I think
they put out a survey. I don't know if that was just to try to get a general feel for what the public was interested in.
I still I messaged them.
How many people are we going to piss off if we call it this?
I messaged them. I asked them to send their PR guy down to a show with me, just because I figured they would. I figured they'd at least respond to me. Be like, yeah, we got this thing.
Nothing.
I don't know. I mean, I could see how them being a little cautious of if they put 10 seconds of research into what they're doing, they could be a little cautious because.
Wait, 6 followers?
Well, that too. Shut up. But more to the. I've been advocating personally that if they're signed on, then the rent needs to be higher, and if the rent's going to be higher, then they're going to end up having to pay more rent. I would assume.
Like you've got any sway over that?
Well, I'm not on their. I'm not on their side, so why give me any time of day?
I would think maybe they may be more cautious because it's still in the planning and that whole kind of setup.
I think
phase.
it kind of feels like it's just it's like a couple of dudes that are like, yeah, let's do it, and they're just start like, oh shit, people are okay, here we go.
I remember going to the webpage, and there was like 2 or 3 main people that I guess have been advocating for this for years, or a part of other similar things.
I mean, I'm down with the premise of it. I just don't know like how that sits in with league stuff and like how like you're gonna have a functional league. I mean, I'm sure there's other, apparently they're trying to get a team in Nashville, like
USL or something. Not Nashville has a team.
The Sound? No, that's the baseball team.
Yeah, I'm not sure what Nashville's.
No.
Apparently, their colors are yellow and black. Which I was reading one thing that I think it might have been on Facebook. They were like, "You stole those colors from the Columbus Crew." Columbus Crew MLS team is.
Oh, I thought they were red, white, and blue.
Not the Columbus Crew. No, they're yellow and black.
Oh, weird.
Yeah.
What a weird thing to be pissy about. I mean, it's soccer.
Those are our colors.
But I mean, it's
That's
soccer.
our color
There's
scheme.
so many teams. I mean, how many red and whites are there?
Sure.
There's like 4 in Premier League.
Yeah.
That are just red and white. I don't know. It's interesting. Have you been following this? I do a little bit. The infrastructure / reconciliation bill shit going on.
Not too much. I know a couple days ago they passed it. I guess that kicked the can down the road, which I've always wondered because it seems to happen like once or twice a year, where they're like, "Hey, we need to approve this budget, or we're gonna run into a government shutdown."
Not part of that. Well,
I don't know if it's just like every 6 months we have to reauthorize the budget, and we can't come to an agreement on something.
No, that's the debt ceiling one. That's the big one right now, and so essentially, which it's weird. Like they've been talking about on Crystal Breaking Points. We'll just say Breaking Points because that's the name of the show. They've been talking about it all week, and it's like when they do the budget at the beginning of the year. They're budgeting regardless of what the debt ceiling is supposed to be. And so every year they have to either raise the debt ceiling to make the budget fit underneath it or suspend it or some sort of thing like that. And so like they're literally writing the budget for a number that's going to exceed the debt ceiling come October, November every year. But they approve the budget, but then at the tail end of the year, it's like, oh, that budget we approved and we all knew was going to break the debt ceiling is breaking the debt ceiling now. So we have to file X, Y, or Z. And apparently it's one of those that, I mean, at the end of the day, we've done it for a decade or so now where they just keep up in the debt ceiling and up in the debt ceiling. Apparently there's also something called minting the coin. And it would be, you kick it over to Treasury, and Treasury will mint $1 trillion platinum coin. And it's really just a shell game.
Walk it over to Congress?
Yeah, it's really just like, it's this weird little asset shell game they can play.
You guys go, don't lose this.
Yeah.
Literally, do not lose this.
And so it just moves, it basically would take the debt, it would lower the total debt that we have going on because we have this new $1 trillion coin, but the $1 trillion coin never hit circulation, and since it never hit circulation, it shouldn't do any inflationary issues or anything like that. And so they mint the $1 trillion coin, put it in a hole in the ground, but minting that coin lowers the total debt, which would keep us under the debt ceiling, then we don't have to do whatever. It's just some weird little thing. It's happened before, apparently. I didn't know it was a thing until recently.
Ever heard of that?
Yeah. No, but the reconciliation package and the infrastructure deal are a separate thing that was going on this week too, which is one of those. This is how our government works: is we putz around all year, and then all of a sudden, the tail end of the year, it's like, fuck, let's get some shit done. And then everybody's like,
shit, I was
fuck.
getting ready to go on vacation. Like,
right. And then everybody's like, fuck you, I'm not doing shit. Like this Kristen Cinema and the dude from West Virginia are fucking everything up.
Mansion.
Yeah. and more the cinema chick than Manchin, because the cinema chick doesn't care. Like Manchin's got things. Like he's like, I'm not going to let this much debt happen. We're not going to do this if it's not doesn't have pay fors and this, that, and that. They're not allowed to tax fossil fuels because he's a West Virginia coal junkie. But like he has some stipulations on what he wants, and there's a little bit of room to maybe make him happy, but probably not. Where Kristen Sinema's like, nah, just fuck it, no. And apparently everything's close enough that it fucking matters what one person says.
Well, I mean, to essentially split 50-50, and those are like the two main kind of like middle moderate.
Well, but the crazy part, really, to me, if I understand it correctly, is it has like Republicans have no part of the conversation. It's you don't have enough. We know you're not going to vote for anything we're going to do. We don't care about you. It's really it's a as
far as in the House,
right? But it's really in the Senate too, because it's 50-50 and they're going to get it in the overgo. But it really comes down to a Democrats and progressive Democrats conversation. That's where the argument is between both these major bills. Is Bernie basically wrote this reconciliation bill, and so him and the Progressive Caucus want this reconciliation bill. They do not want this infrastructure bill, but they're like, oh, we'll let the infrastructure bill pass if you pass our reconciliation bill. All your more standard corporate Democrats are like, fuck your reconciliation bill. It's bullshit, but you better pass our infrastructure bill. And so there's this whole big mess where they were trying to tie them together so that we couldn't get one without the other. And then Pelosi was like, yeah, we'll tie them together. And then, no, we won't. And then she's like, we'll vote on it this week that we're in right now. And then like on Monday, she was like, yeah, we might look at it this week. And then, or we'll look at it by Thursday. And then come Thursday, it's like, we're going to push it back. It's like, okay, well, that was a lot of nothing. And there's some stuff in it that's good. And I think, I don't know. There's some stuff that I like about it, and it's not libertarian to me, and shut the fuck up.
And that's kind of the weird thing when you get some of these bigger bills and you're trying to get people to agree on it. You have to start like trading horses, basically, and you start throwing in like little tiny.
I mean, there's so much.
Piggybacking on the bills.
There's so much shit in it. Like the infrastructure package being the smaller of the two has infrastructure stuff, but it's all over the place. You know, you've got like wind farm and solar stuff and all this different stuff like that. And different states want different things. Like, okay, I'll sign off on this because I'm in Delaware or whatever, but you're going to you're going to pony up $1 billion for us as Delaware to invest in solar energy in our state. You know, and then so like that whole thing goes. And so like there's a bunch of green stuff in it too, which fine, whatever. I'm not going to hate on it. Then like roads and bridges, like infrastructure stuff, it's there. But everybody's fighting about the details. But the reconciliation package has the big stuff in it, and it's like 2.5 times bigger. I think the infrastructure is like 1-point-something trillion, and the reconciliation is like 4.
2.5. Was it 4?
Yeah, like the two together are like $5 or $6 trillion. And like I don't know. To me, like some of the stuff in the reconciliation bill is the one that has the pilot for the mileage tax, which is fucked up. You want to talk about a regressive tax? A mileage tax is about as regressive as it gets.
What's a mileage tax?
It's a Pete Buttigieg thing where it's I guess I'm assuming that the practical functional use of it is when you go register, you're gonna have to show your odometer. So you go register your car, you give them your mileage,
right,
and then they take current mileage minus last year's mileage, and then a per mile tax. I quit. I quit my job the second that tax was into place. Unless my job is going to pay it for me, I can't afford that. I don't care how little it is. There's a lot of people out there that for work drive a ton.
Right.
And it's already costly enough as an employee using a personal car, repairs, tires, all that kind of shit, gas. You know, I get a gas allowance, but it definitely covers how much gas I use for the job.
Right.
But it doesn't cover oil changes. It doesn't cover tires that I use at a much higher rate because of what I do.
Right.
You know, and so if they put, you know, even if it's, I mean, it could be 1/10 of a cent a mile. I think I saw a graphic on it. It might have been from Fox News, so take my memory and it coming from Fox for what it is. But I want to say it said average American drives 240 miles a week, which seemed like a little bit high. But if you drive 240 miles a week, you'll pay $900 or so a year for this mileage tax. I drive well over that. I mean, I could not work that. I mean, it would not, I could work the job. It would just be pointless for me at that point. Not fully pointless, but pretty damn pointless.
Oh, I mean, gee.
Sorry, I got a buzzy wire.
Just warn me next time before my ears pop.
I figured you saw me fucking with it, but
didn't know you're completely disconnecting it.
I don't know what's. I got to get a new one.
All your times in the AV industry.
We're doing this shit live, bro. I got to keep on it.
Oh, you forget where the pause button was?
Sort of. Anyway.
But, I mean, we kind of take it for granted here, but I mean, in many other states, I mean, your total property taxes, we're probably paying 10% what some people in the Northeast pay in property tax.
Right. And again, and which is all well and good, but like the conversation says, what's the difference in living here and there? Like, what are you getting for what you're paying? That's always the question when it comes to tax stuff.
I don't think they're getting anything more than we are.
Right. And that's the real conversation. Because, like, and again, not to go back to the mess thing in schools, but like, there was a bunch of conversation in one of the groups one of the threads went into this whole conversation about it ended up being like 5 different people. 3 were from New York, 2 were from Florida that had just moved here.
Mm-hmm.
And like the group from New York's like, we left New York because of this shit, because we didn't want the massing. We wanted our kids in school. We wanted this, that, and the other.
Right. And
we were trying to run away from that. The Florida people weren't on the same page, but it's a point.
They run from hurricanes.
Right. And other, but they weren't, but I mean, they were still on we want the more looseness that is, I mean, all 5 people were on the Tennessee is a lot more loosey-goosey. You can chill. Like everything's a little more relaxed here, for lack of a better word. And that's why they came here. So it was like, again, just on that same thing. And again, like that is one of the problems in the government conversation in general to me. It's like, yeah, I'm okay. Let's go to New York where property tax is 3-4 times what it is here. What do I get for it? If they give me something for it and it makes sense, I'm not going to complain about it. But I mean, your gut answer was not much.
I mean, I'm assuming it just comes down to the cost that it takes to run that state. That's essentially why, I'm assuming that's why tax rates are set where they're at.
What does that
is what it's costing the state to operate, essentially.
But why would it cost I'm trying to think of a comparable size state that might make sense for the analogy. I mean, North Carolina is turning blue. I don't know what their tax rates are, but why? I mean, why would it cost New York? Why would it cost New York 3 times as much to operate per capita as Tennessee? Now, again, granted, Tennessee doesn't run great either, so there is a little bit of middle ground there where Tennessee could do better.
Higher population
per capita. Why would a higher population it should go? The cost should go down with volume, theoretically.
Why?
Why? Because so I don't know. Like if you're putting in infrastructure, a mile of road services more people in a higher population, or a mile of road costs X. More people are paying for it in a higher population state. More people are pitching in. So a road that in a higher population state, a mile of road is paid for by 100 people, where in a lower population state, a mile of road is paid for by 50 people. The per capita cost should go down with volume, not up.
I mean, assuming there's a lot of costs that go into it.
I agree.
Just around New York City, you've got that many more people traveling on the major interstates in and around New York City.
Okay.
And not to mention the other major cities throughout New York. But you've also got medical costs that the state incurs. Right.
But you also have more people that are paying into it.
Right.
Again, that's why I use it. That's why I was very specific about throwing per capita in. It doesn't make it would be the logical conclusion that more people cost less per person to get. It costs the same or less. It shouldn't cost more when you have more people. That doesn't make sense.
I get what you're saying, and I don't have the best answer for it.
Right. But again, but that starts with, you were saying we take it for granted here. And I guess my pushback is I don't think we do. I think we get what we pay for. Not much, but we don't pay much.
We also get a large subsidy with having TVA here.
What do you mean?
As far as our power? Correct.
But what does that have to do with property tax?
Just our overall cost.
Right.
I mentioned property tax just as a specific.
Okay. I'd be curious.
We have a lower cost of living in the state compared to other states.
And I don't know the specifics on how much TVA plays into that with our power costs versus other power costs.
That's a large part of why our power bills are lower than in most other areas.
Well, cool. Thanks, Press the United States, for paying for my power. Appreciate it.
Basically,
it's cool of you. I mean, we did. We made a large section of at least the central southeast or whatever livable with what TVA did, but like flood mitigation and all that kind of shit, all the dam systems.
I guess.
I mean, we made. I mean, the TVA made East Tennessee possible to hold cities like Bristol and Knoxville and Chattanooga. I don't think we would Knoxville as we know it would not exist without TVA. That's a random.
I mean, I haven't looked into history, but I don't think we had major flooding problems. We're like, we need some dams or else we can't live here.
I mean, it
was put in for a lot of hydroelectric power. Those dams also help, regulate the rivers. But
some New Deal shit, right?
Yeah,
nice.
Part of it.
Anyway, my point being, going back, is that we get you get what you pay for. We don't get much, but we don't pay much. But I would be upset if I paid a lot and still didn't get much.
Oh, I'll also say that there's a lot of things we get that we don't think about.
I agree, and it's been a year plus of this, and I'm happy to entertain and have conversations about them. Just give me some examples, and we can talk about them. Because again, you're not wrong. We all agree that TWRA is great. Now we pay more for TWRA than and again, if we can get a TWRA person in here, I'd love to ask that kind of question. I understand. I know for a fact that the majority of their funding comes from purchases of hunting things. There's an additional tax that we as hunters asked for, not me and you, but it was many moons ago. It was asked for, and so we pay more for ammo, we pay more for guns, we pay more for camo and all the different stuff that's specifically hunting related gear in taxes that goes directly to TWRA to do what they do. And so I would be interested to know how the totality of their funding comes about. But again, the point is, yes, some of them do exist and do good work, and we get good things.
They have a financial disclosure.
I'm sure they do. You say that like I'm going to do the legwork. I'm not doing the legwork.
I'm not saying do the legwork. I'm just saying. You're like, I'd like to know where the money comes from and where it goes. And I'm like,
that's why
I'm sure it's out there.
If you guys haven't figured this out by now, like I have lots of questions, but I have zero.
I just don't want to answer them.
I have zero desire to do the work to find the answer, other than to find a person who
It is easier to explain. I mean, you're looking at numbers. You're like, I don't know what the fuck.
Right. I just want to find somebody who is likely to know the answer.
Spreadsheets are kind of categorized.
Right. I want somebody who knows the answer.
Miscellaneous?
Right. Somebody who knows the answer to explain it to me.
Right.
That's what I want.
Right.
Because it's not explaining it to me, it's explaining it to everyone.
Yeah.
That is the entirety premise of the show, is like, I know I don't know shit. Let me find the people that know shit. Because, I mean, realistically, like, I went on my big tangent, and I need to apologize again for jumping down your throat about where'd you hear that fucking went on my sourcing rampage the other day.
I'm going to assume you were just pissed off at something else and it wasn't me.
I love you. I get mad at you sometimes, but that thing in and of itself is frustrating. But to kind of hammer down the point of making fun of myself right now, it's like, if I did go through, and if we're going to stay on the TWRA thing, if I did go through and pull up their financial thing and did a thing, and I came in here and I did a report on it, you guys wouldn't fucking believe me. Why would anybody listen to us believe me?
Why would we not believe you?
Because you don't believe me when I cite shit or when I say shit that I've heard from what I consider reputable sources. I'm not a reputable source.
That was just a particular that I'd read a couple stories on that it defies logic to me.
Again, not the point though. It's that my point being is that at minimum at this point I have a track record of maybe having shaky resources, at least for you guys on the show.
Necessarily. No.
I don't know. Max is the worst. I get it. I agree. Max is the worst with his Brackhead.com shit.
He gets his news from TikTok.
Right. But like I don't know. My point being is if I actually did it and I went and I pulled the TWRA sheet,
right,
and I broke it down as best I could understand it, and then I did a segment on the show where I was like, this is how TWRA is funded. Blah, 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 blah. Why would anybody believe me on that? I wouldn't believe me.
I would
on
honestly
that.
think on that topic, I don't think we would have any reason to believe that you were making shit up.
But why? Why should?
Because that's not a contentious topic.
But why should that line matter? I mean,
why should what line matter?
Oh, I mean, so if it's contentious matter, if I was to go and do some research on masking in schools, and I was to go do the actual research and go find,
Just when in current
source
times,
it out.
there's so much data on either side of it that it's a contentious topic.
Right, but again, my point is that
there's not much of a debate on what TWRA does with their money.
There might be. We just don't know those people.
It's true. That's maybe.
There's too many goddamn agents out there making sure I'm not shooting fucking.
It's not a common contentious issue.
Well, yeah, that is fairly. I'll agree with that part. But again, I guess the point is, why does contention? Why would contention make a difference in why you believe me in when I source things and when I do research? You shouldn't believe me. You have no reason to believe me, and that's fine. I acknowledge that.
Telling me I shouldn't believe you?
Do
I need to start questioning you more often?
If I were to do a report on X, if I was to say,
why not? Why?
If I was to say, hey, I sat down, I did some research on this thing. Here's the story,
right.
And I did a story like that. There's no reason you should believe me on that. I have no credentials. I have no long term I've done. I don't have a long term pedigree of doing it. Now, you knowing me personally, you give me the benefit of the doubt.
I mean,
but you also know that I'm like to be full of shit sometimes. So
that's also how you present it. Like in that one topic, you're like, I heard this, and I responded rashly as well.
Well, I don't read. I mean, to be fair, I don't read stuff. I get most of my news is audible. Like I listen, I literally that is literally the fact. I heard this.
Right. That just happened to be a thorn in my. So
right. I get what you're saying.
I did a snap judgment. I was like, where did you hear this?
Right, and I get what you're saying, because when you say I heard it, it could be from Jim or Bob or Bill or
right.
whatever, or it could be, in my case, from what I consider a fairly reputable source. But
right.
taint size matters. That's all I'm saying.
Did you listen to it yet? I hadn't. No.
Why not?
It doesn't matter much to me, to be honest.
Have you measured your taint recently? Do you know if it's good?
No idea.
I don't know. It's weird. It's a.
I don't have too many mirrors.
I mean, it's a green argument.
I'm not using my phone for it.
I'm just saying, it's a green argument. That's good. That's a good call. I'm getting used to my phone. Like, I got the new one without it doesn't have the button. My new iPhone. It doesn't have the button on the bottom in the middle.
No, it doesn't have it at all?
Yeah, it doesn't have it at all. And so, some of the controls are a little different.
I was thinking of the one that I have, it's got the quote-unquote button, but it's not a real button, but it's still
right.
That button feel.
Right, my last one was like that, but no, this one doesn't have it at all. And I've accidentally screenshotted, because on the old one where you hold the button and then
hold
the two buttons together and you can do screenshot. Right, and so the new version is up volume and the other side button to do a screenshot. And so when my alarm's going off in the morning and I grab my phone, I've got so many screenshots of my alarm clock in my photo album, because I do that every time my phone's going off. I'm like, not yet. And then I take a screenshot accidentally.
Oh, I always just hit my snooze, which is right there in the middle of the screen.
I mean, it depends. I'm not... I don't, every time I do it, I don't do it that way. I'm just saying, when I reach down and just try to shut it up, I end up pushing a button on the side.
Yeah.
Sometimes, but I'm trying to push the button on one side and it starts sliding, and so I grab it on the other side and then I take a screenshot. Yeah.
That was it.
Like an idiot.
Yeah.
Which apparently I am.
Nah.
So.
You're smarter than the average bear.
I don't know if I am or not, and I'm okay with it. I think that's the only thing that makes me smarter than the average bear, is that I don't know that I am. I don't think that I am. I don't walk around thinking I'm smarter than you. There's some really rough looking people out there that are pretty fucking smart, that on the surface you'd be like, that guy's an idiot.
True. And there's
some really smart looking people that are stupid.
I honestly, I hate to think it, but there's also a lot of dim people out there as well. that,
no,
that
there
I
are.
wonder, I'm like, how have you made it this far in life?
Yeah. But I mean, again, I don't know. Like, cause and this is what concerns me. Like, this is the real, like, we should be getting real high for having this conversation. Like, especially talking about all the school stuff and stuff like that. It's like, you know, I don't know, get into like the nature nurture argument, however you want to do it. Like, what is the point? Like, the real existential crisis kind of bullshit. Like, what's the point? What are we doing? Why are we doing what we're doing? Like, that's my school thing, especially right now. It's like, why are we doing schools the way we're doing? What's the point? Because I mean, I can go full like capitalist version of it. We're not doing that. Like, just full on dirty, gross capitalism. Like the worst version. Like, well, I'm sorry. Well, they're right. They're right. There's right. The worker bees, which is what we are doing. That's the model we still run to this day. Is that we just want to produce, read well enough to read the instruction manual, but not read well enough to find, you know, a philosopher so that they can question the bullshit that they're doing with their lives. Somewhere in the middle. That's what the school systems are trying to do. I think that's where we still are. But like the more capitalistic, the really capitalistic sense to me, in the governmental sense, it's like if you're a government and you're trying to provide X, Y, and Z, you need money to provide X, Y, and Z. What's the best way to make money in your state? State of Tennessee is an income tax, or not an income tax state. It's a sales tax state. Tourism's a big deal, great like that. But what you want is affluent residents who spend their money. That's what you want. You want people with money spending their money in your state. Yeah. So if that's your goal and you are looking over the school system, you want people to graduate from your schools to go out and make a lot of money, but stay in your state to do so. That's not what we're doing either. Now, you know, lawyers, doctors, and such, you know, all the high paying jobs that we could be pushing our kids into. You know, there's a limit to how many we can take before the system breaks down and we can't handle that many, and they have to go elsewhere to work and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, it's like if my job as the state is to try to make more money so that we can provide more services and do better and have better roads and have better public goods and this, that, and the other, then I want a school system that is kicking out high-earning individuals.
Right.
Well, that doesn't line up with what the school system prior version that we were speaking of, where we just want worker bees, because worker bees aren't high-income individuals. High-income individuals don't have a lot of money to burn. They don't bring a lot of tax revenue in for the state. And these are dirty. This is the dirty versions.
I don't think we really lean one way or the other currently, or much more in the past. I think they are trying to get that wide swath of people and trying to just bring about general education and trying to truly get people to a point to where they can, you know, better themselves in life.
So I mean,
you're not going to create Einsteins in middle school and high school, which, I mean, even Einstein apparently wasn't very book smart going through school.
I mean, again, I agree, and both those examples are some of the dirtier examples. But then, what's the other way, where we're the more arts and entertainment and the humanities, I guess, where the focus, you know, where it's the, you know, the joy of life kind of things, the happiness and all those kind of things. Well, at some point, you know, when you get down to the brass tacks of it, at some point, entertainment, I said that word 3 times now on accident. But at some point, the arts are secondary to survival. We can't all be artists and creators. We can't all make pretty things, because then we starve.
And to an extent, a lot of schools, that's been one of the first things they cut are the arts.
Right, but and so I guess my point is, though, is like, what are we trying to do? Nobody knows the answer to this. I've asked this question to all the school board people. I asked it to Eddie Manis the other day, because I'm referencing that show too now. And again, that's why the localism thing is important to me, is because I think that it's harder to have a universalized, what do we want to do, that's going to please anybody. It's hard enough for Knox County Schools to please the majority of the county, let alone the state of Tennessee to please anybody in the state of Tennessee. And then we're talking about federal versions and oversights and this, that, and the other. It gets worse and worse as you go bigger and bigger. Like there's value to me in that localized focus that's going to get out more of what quote we need as a community, and both in high earners that are high taxpayers that help fund the systems that we're trying to do, but then also the humanities that give us the art and the joy and places to spend our money for those that make a ton of money. Right. And I just don't see that. I don't see that as the picture that we're working in.
I don't think there's an easy way to essentially promote all of that. To promote, the trades where you're getting welders, mechanics.
I mean, I don't know. That's one of those frustrating answers that you guys give me a lot. It's like, yeah, I agree. It's complicated. It's not easy. But when and how are we allowed to get into this? Where we actually start picking pieces and parts. Because I'm not okay with it. It's too complicated to touch. Like that's
I'm
what's
not saying it's too complicated to touch. I'm just, I consider it just a fact of matter.
Okay, so then how do we attack it? But we don't have. But again, we can't attack it because we don't know. We can't agree on a goal.
I mean, but that's part of it right there. It's because there are so many perspectives. There are a wide swath of interest among the general public that there's going to be no way to pigeonhole it and have one perfect system. I just see that's just fact of life. That's human nature. Not everyone is the same. You're not going to have one perfect system to where you're going to have the optimum result all the time.
I agree.
And even society changes. I mean, our educational system throughout the years has changed.
Not well enough. But yes.
I agree, not well enough, yes.
But again, I think that's part of the nationalization issue, is that as the education system became a broader, universal thing, not in accessibility, but in control, it became less flexible to adjust to what's going on here and now.
Right. And I think also get into the technological factor. I mean, there's been just an exponential growth in progression in technology just in the past, even in the past 20 years since we graduated.
The past 20 minutes, really, if you want to get down to the brass tacks of it. Like, it changes super fast.
Sure.
But I guess to me, I think that's part of the problem is that we can't, I get that in the sense that, okay, let's do something. Let's make a change. Let's figure it out. And by the time we have a conversation and figure out a solution to move forward with,
study for a couple
the
of years.
fucking world has changed 5 times over by the time we get there.
Right.
But I think one of the things to me is that I don't know how to think about it. I don't know how to get people to think about things in a sense of
we do too much reactive.
Right, but it's to whose end and it's to what end.
Right.
And I don't think people think about it that way. I think it's just how do we get this? But, whose end, whose wins, who's the winners and losers of these programs?
I remember, the story I was hearing, I think I brought it up on the podcast before. It was maybe 10 years or so ago.
I know we've been running this show for 12 years now.
Right. There was lawsuits that were brought by a bunch of students that got out of law school because they were, I don't know who exactly was promoting, but basically encouraging them to go to law school. Like, hey, go to law school, go to law school. There's so much in law school. I don't know if that was to encourage like you were saying, cities and towns looking for higher income earners. But then they got out of law school and there were no law firms to be found there that were hiring at all.
Right.
So they literally were suing, I guess, the colleges that were like, hey, come to our law school, we'll find a placement for you. I don't know if it was actually a guarantee of placement, but basically hey, there's such a high demand for law school, you should come to law school. And they get out of law school and $200,000 in debt, and they're like, I can't find a lawyer job at all.
Yeah.
So they were literally suing because they were kind of baited into this. They may have been thinking about something else and may have been interested in law, but may have had some apprehension to go into law school. They're like, oh, well, no, yeah, there's a high demand for it. Or so they thought.
I mean, it seems to me that there is. It's just you got to go out. You got to be the entrepreneur lawyer and go out and start your own firm.
No, I think you're also seeing that in the medical field. To where, they more people are having to go into specialize either to make more money, but we're getting low on, from what I've heard, on just general practitioners.
GPs, yeah. And again, this is something we've teased 1,000 times, and we really, really, really need to do, especially with AC here, have a real conversation about the healthcare system at large. So I think that is a major issue that we have, and I don't think the conversation is ever correct about it. I don't think insurance is a solution. I think the industry in and of itself is the problem, and insurance exacerbates the problem. And
I think part of it.
I was drunk last week, but at the end of last week's show, when things were getting a little heated or whatever, AC had mentioned there was a story out of somewhere. There was a pediatric case of COVID. Kid ends up dying. Dropped a $250,000 bill on the family after their kid's dead. That sucks. It sucks their kid's dead. That sucks that they've got a $250,000 bill. How the fuck do they have a $250,000 bill?
There was a story today about, I want to say it was a guy in Texas that had like a $50,000. He went to, I want to say it was like a hospital or an ER to get a COVID test. Or it was like a tent they had set up like at the hospital to go get a COVID test. I didn't read the specifics, but apparently he got a bill for like $50,000 for a COVID test.
Yeah. I mean, okay, so like right now, we've talked about it on the show a couple times, so I don't feel like I'm breaking HIPAA here. The missus broke her ankle 2 weeks ago, right? I have no fucking clue what's going on financially in this conversation. So we go to this one clinic, and this whole fucking debacle, I already bitched about that. And so we go and see the doctor that we wanted to see. He gives us, says, hey, we need to do surgery, this, that, and the other. You'll get a call, whatever. So you get a call from some lady, and she's like, hey, I need to talk to Dee. And it's like, well, I'm at work right now. She's not here with me. Can you tell me? She's like, no, it's a HIPAA thing. It's like, fine, whatever. So I go get home, call the lady back.
She doesn't have you on the list of
no, it's a new it's a new
okay.
specialist that we're talking to. So we hadn't had our HIPAA stuff set up correctly yet with them. But they're like, so I put her on speaker. I'm like, hey, she's here. Go ahead and say the thing. And she goes to the thing. It's like, well, this, that. Your out of pocket's $1,900. It's like, okay, whatever. I mean, it's not a conversation I can have. It's not a debate. It's not a negotiation.
Right.
I need this thing.
What if I give you $1,500?
Right. I need this thing fixed. I'm not going to go shop it.
Right.
I mean, not to mention how much does it cost just for me to go get my get a quote on this project. But so okay, yeah, whatever. And so we go in, we get the surgery or whatever. I'm talking to the doctor. I get a prescription for the knee scooter so that she can roll around the house.
Right.
And initially I was like, why the fuck can I get a prescription for that? And I was like, oh, it's an insurance thing. So I go down to what's the place here in town?
Pharmacy?
No, it's the
Knoxville Orthopedic Clinic?
No, that's where we got the work done. But the it's the nurse supply store, it's like the scrub store.
Oh, is it
Lambert's?
Lambert's, yeah.
Yeah, so I go into Lambert's. I'm like, hey, I got this prescription for this knee scooter thing. I need to get a knee scooter for my wife. It's like, so it's like insurance, whatever. And so we go through this whole thing, and it's like, well, depending on where your deductible and your full year, what's the other word?
Your copay, yeah, your deductible for the year.
Right. Depending on where you're for the deductible for a year, like whatever. But like our standard with your insurance company is $55 a month for the knee scooter. Out of pocket's $80 a month.
Oh, you don't get to keep it? You got to rent it?
Yeah. And so you're right, which it's like $55 a month, or a brand new one for like $250.
Yeah.
And so it's going to be like 3 months, and it's like, God damn, I'm going to pay $170, or I can pay an extra $80 and have one forever and never need it again. I don't know. Probably resell it for $200 and recoup some of my hindsight. Anyway, and so like we're going through this whole thing. It's like I was sitting there waiting on him to do all the paperwork for me to rent this scooter, and I'm like, I have no idea where any of this stands financially. I've gotten 0 bills yet. I don't know what's going on. I just know that my wife is broken and she needs to be fixed. The people are fixing her. She's got, the painkillers to help her deal with that kind of stuff. She's got the cast. We got appointments next week. We got this, that, and the other all lined up. I have no idea what I'm paying for. I know what I'm paying for. I just don't know how much I'm paying for it. Right. And I'm just sitting here.
I think Congress did finally pass that no surprise bill. I think I was reading the other day. It actually goes into effect January 1st.
22?
Yeah. Of this coming, yeah.
And it's just like, I don't know. And it's like, I get it. Like, I mean, it shouldn't be an important part of the conversation, but it's going to be. Right. When they drop 10, like, I don't remember.
And many times it's not really to the the billing department of the hospital or wherever, it's not really to their benefit to go over all this shit with you.
Right, and the insurance
And
company
like,
has no desire to do it.
Right. And a lot of that, the billing doesn't really know what to tell you because it all depends on
right coding from
where
the
you're
doctor's
at.
office and this and the other.
Right.
You know, like another example too is like when she went in for the surgery, they gave her a pair of socks,
They probably charged you for it.
and we're gonna get a bill for a pair of socks. They're still in the fucking plastic baggie, and like I'm holding on to them. And when they bill me for them,
You kept
like, no,
them.
you can have them back.
Should have left them there.
She's fucking high as a kite. She is so dope up on all the different painkillers and shit to keep her not from freaking out to get cut open and all that kind of shit. And it's like,
Right.
oh, here you go. Here's some socks. Okay. It's not like oh, well, we're in checkout now. Here's your socks back. Don't charge us for them.
Right.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know what's going on. There's a whole bag of shit that she came home with from there. And it's like, we're going to get billed for all this shit.
Probably. Yeah.
We have no idea. That's the problem with the system. Because again, if I'm the doctor's office or the surgery center or whatever it is, hell yeah. Of course you are.
Right.
Because 9 out of 10, it's going to go into insurance. It's going to go through that whole process, and it's not your fault. The insurance is going to cover portions of it. The individual is going to have to cover portions of it. It's all going to get it, but you're going to get paid. So why wouldn't you throw a pair of socks in if you're the surgery center? And it's like, well, you know, but who are we serving here? We're serving the fucking sock company? I mean, I don't know. Like, what's the point? It's not for my best interest. It's not for her best interest. It's the insurance company and the doctor's offices and stuff that have this whole big cabal of debacle.
I don't understand the reasoning behind the sock. Why would they give you? Did you come in without sock?
I don't know. I mean, maybe it was chilly in there. I don't know. I really don't know where the socks came from.
Do your
But
feet swell? Did they give you? Was it oversized socks?
I mean, but they gave her a pair of socks, and she has a cast on one of her feet.
Right.
So she can't put it. She has two socks for
one sock.
One sock that's available.
Well, now you got an extra one just in case.
It's dumb. Like, I don't get it. And it's like, but I'm going to pay probably $25 for this cheap ass pair of socks. But they got the little rubber things. Like, we could probably use them at the jump jam. You know, when she heals enough to put a pair of rubber bottom socks on to go to jump jam. But I'm just saying, like that is the illustration of why we have what the problem is I'm sitting here going, my wife's broken. I need to fix her. I have insurance, air quotes, hard air quotes. I have insurance. Let's go get it taken care of.
I just thought of it. I mean, in those, like I said, it's probably in that interim time before you get the wheelie thing, or when you're walking around on a crutch and you only have one leg that's touching the floor, they want to make sure you're not slipping around. If you decide to just go around your, I mean, if you don't have shoes on,
so you couldn't put your own shoes on.
They probably, yes, you can put your own shoes on. Maybe so, maybe not. I don't know.
I mean, she came in with shoes on, or at least a shoe on. And
that's the only thing that makes the most logical sense to me is where if you're in that kind of thing, you're probably not going out and about very often, so you're crutching around the house. A lot of people have hardwood floors. Maybe they give you a sock with the grippy things.
So okay,
so you're less likely to fall down and
I don't even want to go down the road. But they're not liable for that. They don't need to do that to protect themselves from some liability. Oh, you barefooted on the crutches and fell and broke your other ankle. That's our fault as the doctor's office because we didn't give you a grippy sock.
I don't think it would be a liability thing, though.
But it's customer service.
Yeah. For as much as they're going to charge you for it, yeah.
But they're going to charge you for the socks. Where he was like, "Hey, be careful on the hardwood floors. Make sure you wear something with grip on your one foot that works." But that doesn't. That's not an acceptable.
I'm assuming you got to go back for a follow up. I would encourage you to ask them, like, "Hey, by the way, why the hell did I get a pair of grippy socks?
Here's your socks back. Get them off the bill."
Yeah.
But again, the point being that is an illustration of this of how ridiculous this system is.
But it's also the fact that most people aren't going to ask. Because that's not what's important to them. You know, in a situation like that, it's do whatever you got to do. They're not going to be like, "Oh, how much is this going to cost?" Like,
okay, so
what happens if I just wrap it up? Is it going to heal?
But the regulation and the oversight that's in place is protecting them, not me and you. It's protecting the insurance companies and the doctor's offices, not me and you.
Protecting them from what?
From any harm from this kind of situation.
I'm confused.
This isn't a private enterprise where it'd be like I don't know, like why wouldn't you disclose what you're doing as a doctor or as any business? Why wouldn't you disclose what you're charging for? Why wouldn't you be like, hey, this is what we're doing? Like, I understand on certain things.
That's one thing they've been working at recently. Because people that do, shop around when it's an elective surgery will call around to multiple hospitals, even hospitals out of state, and be like, how much you guys charging for this? Because, many of news agencies have dug into it, and there's a wide swath for the same procedure that are charged differently from hospital to hospital.
Right, which is fair if I'm getting something
but also
different.
Those places aren't disclosing it. Right,
but again, you could charge different prices, but there should be value for it. But it shouldn't be an oversight. I don't know. That's a secondary non-thing. It's not an oversight. It's like, what is, like, but I guess my point is like, what is the, if we're going to have a government with all this oversight and all this red tape and all these things, what are they doing to protect us from this? They're not. Obamacare is forcing us to be a part of this, among other things. That's just an example that popped in. I'm not specifically shitting on Obama, just as an example that popped into my head while I was saying it, of the system forcing.
This has nothing to do with the Affordable Care Act.
So being penalized for not having insurance, which is what confuses the market, is not part of the problem.
It confuses the market?
Yeah, I have to have insurance.
No, you
so
don't.
I have to go. The Obama that was the solution.
That is no longer.
That was the solution to Obamacare. That was what it was trying to do.
There is no longer an insurance mandate.
Okay, I'm not just. Where is the oversight that is protecting me and you from what's going on right now? If that's what the government is supposed to do, right? Like they're supposed to protect us.
That's what they're working on right now.
They're working on right now. Like, how did we get here? Is this all private entities being all shady and bullshit? No, they got here with the oversight. They got here with the laws in place to get them to be able to do what they're doing. It's not the lack of laws that got us to where we are. It's the presence of them.
I would disagree with you.
Okay. So
I think a lot of it was lobbyists throughout the years that would just allow it to continue
What
happening.
do lobbyists do?
Advocate for a certain business industry.
Okay. And so they advocate for, laws that go into place that benefit their customer, their client, if they're lobbyists.
Or lack of laws that don't go into place.
Okay. So, okay, that's fair. What lack of law? Okay, so I don't know. I know I don't know a specific. Is there a specific that you can think of where a politician was trying to push forth a law on the books that would protect us that the lobby? Fuck, I'm sure they are. I don't know. I don't know
how far it went, but I remember Hillary Clinton, when she was First Lady, was pushing for essentially universal health care. It never came to fruition. I don't know how far it made it through Congress or Senate. I'm assuming it was somewhere in the congressional docket if the First Lady was talking about it.
See, but I don't know how that's... I get that's a solution, I suppose. It doesn't protect us. It just keeps us from paying for it. But that doesn't change the conversation about why things cost what they cost. Because they're going to cost something. Right. Just because the government's paying for it and I'm not paying for it, which I am paying for it because I pay for the government to exist. But how is that a solution for the cost issue of healthcare?
I know they've been working on it for the past year or so as far as surprise medical bills.
Okay,
they're trying to put it into that.
I get that, but again, it's like even if we get something that there's no surprises, it's just going to be, hey, this is going to cost you $250,000.
Right.
Why does it cost $250,000? That's the question I'm asking. I think the relationship of insurance is
complicated.
It is complicated, but I don't accept that as an okay answer for this.
I mean, a lot of it's just with any business. It's what it costs them to essentially maintain what it is that they do. There's administrative costs.
Can I open a doctor's office right now?
No.
I'm sorry, excuse me. Can I open a hospital right now?
No.
Why not?
I'm assuming there's many things you would have to be ownership of a hospital. I don't know what you would administer.
I mean, I know I can't open
to
a hospital.
Administer a hospital.
I know for a fact. I can't. I know I can't open a hospital in Knox County without permission of the other hospitals in Knox County. That's one thing I know exists.
That's right. Yeah, I remember you talking about that before.
That's a real thing. Now, that one aside.
Now, why is that so?
I don't know. That's a law that's in place. I don't know who that. It's a certificate of need is the title. You have to obtain a certificate of need if you want to open a hospital. And the persons there are particular people from other hospitals in the area that are part of the group. It's just to protect the asset. I mean, that's why it exists, because we don't want a new hospital coming in and then a hospital that exists ends up closing down. Yeah. Who does that protect? Not me and you. That protects the other hospitals that already exist. So that's a law that is actually in place that is to protect hospitals, not people. And it's argued that it's like, well, if we don't do that, then some hospital will come in, and then all the other hospitals will leave, and we'll be stuck with one, and then we have a monopoly. Shut down the hospital. Right.
Which is what's already happened to many of rural hospitals. They're having to shut down for whatever reason.
Right. And again, but why are they shutting down? Because they can't make money. Why can't they make money? Because the people that live there can't afford the services. Why can't people afford the services? These are the real questions. Why can't people afford the services?
Because healthcare is very expensive.
Why? Why is it expensive? I understand like fucking cancer treatment or like major shit like is expensive and it takes a lot of money. I understand those parts. Yes, those are expensive. I get that. But
I'd be curious to look at numbers, but I mean, a lot of hospitals, I mean, they have the Hippocratic Oath. They can't turn someone away, so there's a lot of indigent care that they've essentially got to write off that whole bill.
Going to channeling some AC from last week,
right.
There's enough money in this fucking country. There's enough tax revenue in this fucking country that we can cover that indigent care shit in a reasonable manner. Not to mention that there's contract there. UT Medical doesn't write off. Knox County pays. They have an indigent care contract.
Yeah, I'm sure the federal government also kicks in some of that as well. Yeah.
So it's not that there's not money there. There's not as much money there, but there's money there to even care for people that can't pay for it themselves.
I don't know if it fully covers it, but I don't know.
But again, what's fully cover it mean? What they're asking, what they charge for a service, and why do they charge that for the service? Those are the questions that I don't have the answer to. How much does it cost? Realistically,
some of it's just industry standards. I mean, you go to a car dealership, how much do they charge you for, a certain part? That's not what the part costs them.
You need a better example than car dealerships because that's a separate whole sub issue with government.
I'm just trying to give you a different industry that essentially rips you off or something that
and
doesn't cost them that much money.
You know how they get to rip you off of that?
Where else are you going to
go? Part of it. I mean, dealership laws, have you followed any of that kind of shit?
No.
Like you can't that's another one it's similar to a certificate of need. You can't just why isn't there a Walmart of new cars? Why is there a Toyota dealership and a Nissan dealership and a Ford dealership, but not hey, we got all sorts of cars here, new? Why don't they exist?
All right, you have to get authorization from the manufacturer itself, and you have to meet a certain sales quota to be able to put that name of that manufacturer.
It's a state law thing. I'll have to find it. I'll have to find it to go through the details of it. But it is a state law thing.
I'm not talking about selling cars. I'm just talking about repairs, trying to equate it to fixing a problem like a hospital. When something's broken.
Okay.
Like a person.
Right.
Like a car.
Right.
That was the analogy I was trying to make.
Okay. So there's an industry standard on how much it costs to fix brakes, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Well,
so
there's an average. I mean, you got budget brakes.
Right. And how does budget brakes exist? They fix brakes. They put new brakes on.
Right. They just put
cheaper brakes on.
Parts,
Don't last as long, whatever. But I pay less for it.
Right. They tell you that's just putting pads on.
Right. But
that's not other parts included. And they're like, oh, but actually not just $39.99 for a new brake.
Okay. But my point is that there is some competition in the market that has pushed the price to where it is.
Yeah.
Like we can see that in action because there is not a protection against new brakes places opening. I can open a brakes place tomorrow. I don't need a certificate from the state to install brakes. I just need the tools and time and
business license
the business license. I don't even need to know how to do it. I mean, I need to know how to do it to not get sued when some of these brakes don't work and they run into a tree and I get sued for it. Right. That's an important business factor that I need to take in if I want to open a brake store. I can't open a hospital though. I can't write prescriptions.
It's not an apple-to-apples comparison.
But I'm just saying, my point is that that as it is complicated and it is not an apples-to-apples comparison, I don't believe that...
There are medical facilities.
I don't believe that in real market conditions that it should cost what it costs to do things. And I understand that it may not be reasonable to expect a standard free market in healthcare, but I don't believe that it should cost what it costs to do the things. I mean, Max said it on a show forever ago. It's like, why when I go to the hospital I pay $40 for an aspirin or a couple aspirin or whatever it is.
Right.
I get billed $40 for 250 milligrams of aspirin. I don't know what the proper dosage is. Anyway,
right.
Like, why? Because they can. Why can they? I don't know. But it's not because it's because I don't have a choice, because I'm stuck in the situation. I don't know exactly what it is, but that's the thing that I want to understand. That's the part that I understand. Why does I don't know what the surgery is going to end up costing us, but why does the surgery cost that much? Why again, the example AC brought up last week, a period of COVID care with some ICU nights and stuff like that before the kid actually dies, $250,000. Yeah. They didn't even do a good job. They're fucking dead. That was a little crass. I'm sorry. I wasn't trying to be mean about it, but I'm just saying, like, they didn't even succeed. $250,000 for failure, that seems a little bit overpriced. Like, if $250,000 actually saved their life, I could see that as an argument for why it costs that much.
I mean, as far as code and ICU, you look at statistics, and
it's fair.
And AC has brought it up before. Once you're in the ICU,
you're dead. Right. Yeah, I get that, but that's a side to the point, and I was being a little ridiculous for the sake of conversation. But, like, again, point being is I cannot for the life of me wrap my head around why X hospital stuff costs what it does. Forget insurance companies, forget law, forget all the other stuff. Why does X cost so much? And it seems like that is a universal conversation throughout the medical industry.
That's been a big question for years.
And that's never the argument that we're having. That's never the conversation about how we fix this system. And I'm sure as shit not suggesting price fixing, because that is not a solution by any stretch of the imagination. But and maybe I'll shut up and I'll go full universal healthcare or something like that if somebody can explain to me why things cost what they do.
I do think the insurance company or the insurance industry is a part of it. It's where a lot of them, have those contracts in place that say, hey, we're going to bring, essentially all of our customers to you for business. If you, will accept our insurance here. But it's not like they're paying that full cost that hospital is sending them. They have agreements in place. They're like,
right,
okay, you say it costs $50,000. We're under agreement that I'm only going to pay you $15,000.
Right. I got 20,000 people.
All right.
I got 20,000 people signed up. They're going to use you periodically. I'm paying 25% less than what you list.
Right.
But I'd like to see that list. What's that list price?
Good luck getting that.
I'm just saying, like, why is that? Like, why? Like, why isn't that a reasonable thing? Like, it should be like going to fucking McDonald's.
Because
there should be a big menu board on the wall.
Corporations don't just open up their books to how much they're making and what the profits they're making.
I don't care what their profits are. I'm not talking about their profits. I don't care how much they're making. Period. That's not what I'm asking for. It should not make a difference.
What do you think that those numbers are going to tell you? Those numbers are going to tell you how much they're paying and how much money they're making. That's
I just want to know. No, I know. I just want to know what they're charging for X. Yeah. Like, how much does this cost? Oh, I get a membership discount if I sign up for this thing? Okay, cool. But give me that. I want to see that. I want to see UT Medical Center charges X for...
I think you can find some of that.
For 2 hours in the ICU from them or just from people compiling data outside?
I don't know directly from them. I think there are places that have started to compile databases of at least an average cost of different facilities, because I don't think even different states or regions.
See, I don't think it exists for the medical center. I don't like. I keep using UT, whatever, Tennova. It doesn't matter. I don't think that the number exists. I don't think they have a number. I think the insurance companies come to them and say, "Hey, we'll pay you this much," and then they have a little discussion in house and go, "All right, cool," or "No, we need this much," and they go back and forth and they settle on a number. I don't think they have a number. I don't think they go through like a normal business does and says, the square footage of space costs us this much. We need to hit X, Y, and Z. We have this kind of staff in place. Normal costs of business, blah, 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 blah. Here's what we need. Here's our break-even number. Here's what we want to mark it up. Here's our profit to shareholders. And here is our, our rainy day fund percentage that we want to set up and stuff like that. I don't think they do that. I think they literally just sit there and go, hey, I built $1 billion hospital. How much you want to pay me to use my shit? And then they go back and forth and pick a number and they go. And then they send out all these grant proposals and get free money here. They probably didn't pay taxes to put their shit in the first place. Probably don't pay property tax and other stuff. And then they go rent out half the facility to fucking private firms that fall under their banner that may or may not fall on the insurance companies that use their banner, but whatever. All that kind of bullshit. Like I think it's a big fucking scam that they all know what the fuck they're doing. They all know how to play the game, and we're all just out here paying the bills. That's what I think is actually happening. Boom, bitches! I was feeling hot right there. We've teased this conversation 1,000 times, and the one time we have, or one of the many times that we don't have the one guy who might have more insight. Probably not. I mean, really. I mean, he gets paid again.
He's not.
I don't know how much money he makes
behind the scenes.
I don't know how much money he makes, but he makes a lot of money.
Right.
And I'm not going to say he's not worth that much money. I'm not going to pretend that by any stretch of the imagination. He spent like 35 years in fucking college to do what he does.
That's part of the cost as well.
Absolutely. I said labor in my breakdown.
Right.
But you got the shit going on like where hospitals are having issues with staff because staff's quitting to go do remote jobs because other places are paying extra for traveling people.
That's part of it.
And so now
there's a large number of that are just burnt out from last year, and they were like, fuck this. I'm not doing this anymore.
And then there's a handful that are...
And you've also got just the general turnover.
Right. And then you have a handful that survived last year, and for one reason or the other, they don't feel like getting a vaccine or getting fired now. That's a fun story.
That's a very small percentage of people.
It's not many, but it's a thing. We don't have enough healthcare workers, so we're firing them.
It's a thing.
It's a story. It happens. I mean, it's the same thing that's going on. We got a couple of subs here in Knox County that got fired or laid off because they had particular views. At least that's the argument when we have a teacher and sub shortage.
That's always been an issue.
Right, but I'm just saying, like, right now, it's like there was some sub that was pitching a fit because...
Right. And we've had bad flu season years to where they've closed schools, not because a low student number, because so many students were out with the flu, but because they didn't have enough teachers or substitute teachers. They have low teacher numbers
right now, and there's been apparently, like, shared classroom shit going on. It's been pretty gross.
I mean, there's been sporadic times where there hasn't been substitute teachers, period.
Yeah. And apparently, once this ESSER stuff kicks in at the beginning of the year, it's going to change a lot of that. We'll see how that all shakes down as it gets going.
Because I know someone used to do it occasionally, and it was pretty much just like random that they would call you like, hey, you can work this morning. I mean, there's not that many people that have the luxury to just, like, sitting by their phone every day, like just waiting for maybe a substitute job to go and do.
I mean, I do it. I'm in. Make me a sub. I'll go watch Trading Places. I always say I've said that like 3 times now. Trading Places. I don't think you would. I think you would go to jail if you put that movie in front of kids today.
I remember watching it when I was in elementary school, and I'm like, oh, that was not something I was supposed to be watching at that age.
It's Eddie Murphy. It's good as shit. It's a great movie. It's a good explanation of the stock market.
Yeah.
I mean, it really is. Like, if you break it down, like, it is really a good, like, I mean, Eddie Murphy says it best. It's like, yeah, it's like betting on whatever. It's just gambling. You're just gambling on whether that thing's going to go up or down. It's like, oh, there's, we have reason to believe that this is going to get better, so we'll put it in now. I got a 63 cent.
Waiting on that. I need to eat that G.I. Joe with the Kung Fu grip.
I got a 63-cent dividend from BP this week.
Nice.
Making big money, which is weird. Like, I didn't think British Petroleum was on. Well, but I made the joke last week, 2 weeks ago. I made I got a nickel from Raytheon in dividends. And it's like, we just left a war, and they're making more money. I'm so confused.
I don't know. The U.S. isn't stopping expanding our arsenal. We're always replacing old equipment.
Well, I mean, we're replacing a lot of equipment now. You know what I'm saying?
But a lot of what they're building, even like fighter jets, take a year or two to build, or however long it takes.
Yeah, but they're not getting new contracts. They should be.
So.
I wouldn't think they would be getting new contracts.
We have allies across the world as well that they're also.
That's true. They're fair.
They were also selling things to.
Buy war stocks, people. We're going back. We're going to go to Iran. I think we're going into Iran.
I don't think so.
Why not? Fuck it. Let's get this shit going. It's better than COVID. Let's go to war.
And if we gave a shit about Africa, I would think that would be one of the next places we would go to.
It's a good call. It's wise.
But
we don't go.
That's always been a hotbed. We've never really. I mean,
we don't go to war there. We just go
send
black
some to
ops
Somalia
shit.
and some to Yemen, some to Egypt. We went to Libya.
We do. Yeah, we just
tracked down Gaddafi.
Shit. Yeah, we do black ops shit. We don't do.
That was all.
We don't do real war shit.
That was all regular boots on the ground.
Well, yeah. Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah. Did you hear Kavanaugh came back positive today?
Positively awesome?
Yeah.
I
swear I was just reading that they were just getting ready to actually start meeting again in person, because I guess they've been doing it over like Zoom or by phone, basically.
Well, he was the one that have you watched the housing the eviction moratorium conversation at all?
No, not really. I know it got overturned.
He was the one that on one of them went to the Supreme Court, and he was the one that wrote the thing. It's like, look, we're not doing this again. This needs to be a legislative action. You guys need to figure this out. We're not doing this again. And then Biden came back and did something with OSHA.
Can
or something.
It be re-litigated once it's already been to the Supreme Court?
No, but basically it was like if something comes back on, because essentially it's like landlords are suing,
right?
Because they can't, they
can't collect. Yeah.
They can't collect and they can't do whatever, and it's like, well, I've got a mortgage to pay. What am I supposed to do? How do we work this out? And so like these different lawsuits go through the system. And so Kavanaugh was the one that's like, look, this needs to be a legislative action. This isn't us to keep this thing alive. But apparently there's a bunch of stuff that was in the second CARES Act that like all 50 states got a huge sum to help with rental assistance. And all 50 states took the money, and most of the states were really stingy about paying that money out. And so like the process of like applying for your rental assistance from this thing was really complicated and hard and all this kind of different shit.
Yeah, I thought I read there was some chunk of money that Tennessee got that they pretty much were trying to refuse because I guess there was something tied to in taking that money. Other taxes were applied to it, and they're like, well, we want to pay those taxes. You can just have that money back.
Yeah.
We don't want it. We're not cashing this check.
Right, because there's a lot of stuff that, that's not an abnormal practice. It's like, help your people out.
I'll give you money if you do this. Right.
Well, here's money for this thing, but we give you this money, then you now owe us
use it for this, and this.
But even if you do use it as we asked you to use it, it ties into like now we have control over something, and a lot of states are like, no, we would rather control our own shit, and so it's a weird thing.
Over it.
It depends on the specifics, but
right. I thought it was interesting. Apparently, when they've been like meeting over the phone in the past few years, I'd heard it before. Like Clarence Thomas and doesn't really ask many questions whenever they're doing oral arguments, but apparently he's been doing a lot more when they've been doing it over the phone. Apparently, he's more of a writer. Like he writes a lot of the decisions or whatever. He's much more of a tactile person,
right,
versus auditory, I guess. But I guess now he's actually asking a lot more questions whenever they're debating cases over the phone.
Because it's over the phone? I
don't know why, but I guess he's asking more questions, where I guess in previous trials, he's normally not one to be, asking questions of the defense and prosecution.
Wonder what the difference... I mean, like, I understand there's a different action, but why not being in the room makes a difference in that?
I think maybe part of it was I think they're now having to take turns asking questions. I guess, they know the case going into it, so I guess they have a list of questions that they're going to ask. I can't remember exactly.
That is very interesting.
Because he's been in there 20, 30 years,
yeah.
I think. Been there a while.
So, Tennessee Supreme Court justice died a couple weeks ago. Yeah.
I hear about that.
Yeah, and apparently Matt Hughes told me about it because she was appointed under a previous Democratic governor that we had.
Bredesen, maybe. No, that was governor. Yeah, Bredesen,
maybe. And so his concern is that she will be replaced by somebody Lee puts in, which is true,
right?
And may turn into whatever bullshit in the future about some something. But first woman ever, I think it was first woman ever to lay in state. Like she was in the Capitol building or something for a period of time. As far as
that's good.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Show some respect.
Yeah,
I did hear. I think it was today. I heard. I don't know how recently it was, but apparently they kicked some woman. It's a Tennessee senator that got not expunged but expelled, I guess. It wasn't something she done recently, but
state senator.
Yeah, state senator. Okay. I think it had to do with a company that she owned, had to do with like taxes. Basically, stole a bunch of money or misspent a bunch of money.
And she got in trouble for that? You don't get in trouble for that.
I don't know if it was like under investigation for a while or it finally got litigated where she finally got found guilty for it. Good. I think that's what it was. She finally got convicted of it, but it was a business that she had owned prior to being a senator. But it had to do with what she had done.
Or whatever, yeah.
It had to do with like financing and her stealing money from the company or misspending funds.
Oh, okay. So it wasn't she was using her position to do shit. It's just she did terrible shit.
Right. And with a lot of, some of those cases like that, they get kicked around to different courts to where it finally, I guess even with the pandemic, there was a lot of court cases that were getting pushed back and back.
Right.
And even criminal cases, you may be sitting in jail for 6 to 9 months before you're...
Oh, shit. Did you hear about that fucking...
Pre-trial comes... No.
Sorry.
What?
Sorry. Finish your thing.
No.
I got excited.
No, I was just saying, just in general courts, sometimes you're waiting years before you even have your court date.
Right. There's a Marine did a YouTube TikTok video or something like that where he's basically like, there's a problem. Like he basically shit on his superior officers, not by name, just in general. It's like, there's no excuse for Afghanistan and how Afghanistan went. They all knew what was going on here, and at least some level of accountability is required here. It's like 17-year Marine, Iraq, Afghanistan, whatever. Put this video out basically just saying, like, look, we fucked up. Everybody knows we fucked up. But the people that fucked it up need to be held accountable. The boots on the ground guys are just doing their job. They're out there doing the thing they were told to do. They're doing the best they can with what they're doing, blah, 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 blah. It's not their fault. It's a leadership issue. Leadership fucked this up. Currently, if I remember correctly, it was that initially he was, he got court-martialed and shit like that, but he's currently in captivity, awaiting a trial with no date, no charges pending, but awaiting something. But he's in captivity now because basically he said, we drone strike these. I mean, the drone strike one's not what he said, but basically he's like, we fucked this up. Leadership fucked this up over and over and over again for 20 years. And their heads need to roll here. Their people need to be, this needs to be investigated and people need to be held accountable for what happened.
They had congressional hearings this week.
Yeah,
with top generals.
Yeah, nobody cared.
And I can't remember
they didn't do anything wrong.
That's not what they said at all.
Nobody's getting in trouble.
Anybody's getting in trouble. But that was not what they didn't give that impression whatsoever.
I don't know.
They basically said, they're like, that was pretty much a failure.
What, the exit or the whole thing?
The whole thing.
And there's no accountability? Or that's the accountability. So, yeah, we fucked it up. Moving on.
No, that's not the accountability.
What's the accountability? Like, what should the accountability be?
What kind of accountability are you expecting?
I think George W. Bush could be tried as a war criminal. That'd be a good start.
What?
Yeah, it's just a bad joke. I think, okay, so...
part of it, you had multiple...
What is it, Millie? Who, I think it was Millie a couple weeks ago, was like, it was a righteous strike, the drone strike thing. Like, he said that quote. It's like, the intelligence we had, we went in there, it was a righteous strike, we killed the guy we were trying to kill or whatever.
Yeah.
And now everything's come out where the drone strike was a complete failure.
Right.
And he's now trying to say that he didn't say it was a righteous strike, and he's trying to lean saying the intelligence was good and stuff like that.
I haven't heard his quotes on that.
Yeah,
and that was poor intelligence. He said it like right after the intelligence that we had was that we took out a Taliban operative.
I don't know. I mean,
I'm pretty sure they were very quick to admit once they found out that it was not.
I don't think they were very quick to admit. I think the handful of media that exists that still does good work figured out what actually happened, and then they were quick to admit because it was already out. Because if you didn't quick to admit it, if you tried to hold the line at that point, it's too late. They didn't look into it. Like, why is the intelligence bad? Like, are they looking into the intelligence bad? Is anybody going to get in trouble for killing? What was it? 13 people, like 6 of them kids. The target was I mean,
I don't want to downplay it, but it's not the first time.
Okay, and that's the point of this. The colonel I'm referencing is like that was his point. It's like this is what we've done for years, and nobody's been held accountable for it in the past, and so. Why do we expect him to be held accountable now?
Was there anyone held accountable for the yellow cake incident going into Iraq?
Again, I made the joke of G-Dub should be tried as a war criminal, and you gave me a sideways look. Yeah, that'd be a start. I mean, that'd be something. I mean, for all intents and purposes, as I understand it, and all my tinfoil hat bullshit, is nobody really thought that it was there. Nobody that really mattered really actually had, maybe not, maybe some people thought that it was there, but had no real proof that it was there, and did it anyway. It went through the whole thing and sold the whole, this is part of the war on terror. We're going to protect America, this, that, and the other. If we don't do this, he's going to kill millions of people, blah, blah, blah. They sold that shit on a lie, and nobody's been held accountable for that either. And he's just off painting pictures, feeling good about himself. Now all of a sudden relevant again, because his opinion on our exit strategy matters.
I haven't heard what he said about
There's
the
been a couple times he's popped up recently where he's just like, well, it's unfortunate that we left the way we did and this, that, and the other. It's bullshit. It's all bullshit.
Yeah, I think I did hear a general that we should have kept, at least a certain number of military there.
2,500.
I think that may have been the number or something.
Maybe 4,500.
That's something I don't know if it was not necessarily a lack of imagination, but they truly didn't expect the Afghan military itself to go under so quickly once the Taliban. They expect the Taliban to essentially take over the whole country in like 2 weeks. Okay,
and while that is the thing, was right. Okay, I don't know if I believe that part. That's where I get caught up in the whole thing. I don't know if I believe that.
What makes it hard to believe that a military force could take over an entire country in 2 weeks?
No, I believe that they are. Yes, I believe the Taliban was capable of that. I don't believe that the people in the know didn't already know that. I don't believe that the people that have been in there, quote, training and building. I mean, okay, so the joke, the terrible joke version of it is, we have kids that were born after 9/11 that went to Afghanistan.
Yeah.
Right? We have American soldiers that were born after the incident that started this, quote, war. Go in there, it's because we're still there. Not many. It's a very tight window, but pretty fucking close.
Okay.
Point being, that if you ask people that did the job that were trying to train those people, if they were ready, they were going to say no, they weren't ready. Okay, but let me back it up. I sidetracked myself. We have kids that were born on right before, right after, or whatever, that went through their entire schooling career, went into the military, were trained, and functional military personnel that went over there. But they didn't have enough. We didn't have enough time to train and build a functional army over there of those people in any time in that window. So we literally had, babies that were born here when this thing started, that grew up and became adults and were trained to be military personnel, that went over there to train people to become military personnel, who in their entire lifetime, if they were in the same age bracket, why weren't they capable yet? I'm terribly, terribly explaining this right now. But you get what
I
you
kind of get what
I'm
you're saying, but I mean, no disrespect to our military, but I'm sure we've got many people in our military that aren't top trained either that things could happen to.
Okay, that is a fair assessment, but I mean, so how many so if
war is war.
Sure, but the generations there was if the soldiers you were training wanted to do the job, they should have been able to do the job. They had all the equipment they needed. They had all the training they needed. They had all the X, Y, and Z. If they had any desire to do the job, they should have been able to do the job.
Right.
They didn't have the desire to do the job. We couldn't install that part of it. Everything else we can do.
I mean,
but we cannot install the desire for you to do the job.
Right. Yeah, I don't know if it was a morale issue, if there was a fear. I mean, I'm sure.
I just don't think. Right.
Ever since I guess the Taliban was taken out of power.
But I guess the same thing.
Late 90s.
I guess the same thing is in the kid that was born on 9/11 that somehow went over to Afghanistan is that you. Oh, fuck! I just lost it. I had it. It was good. You could have been. You at that point, if you were born on 9/11 in Afghanistan and were then recruited into the Taliban or into the U.S. backed Afghani force. Your entire existence, you had the U.S. there to help you. You had the crutch. You always had the crutch. The crutch was never leaving. As much as they said, here, we're training you to take care of yourselves. They're never going away. They're always here. They've always been here. They've been here my entire life. Why would I think they're going to leave ever? Because they've always been here.
Yeah.
And then they do leave, and you're like, oh, shit, Dad's gone. That's the problem. One of the problems to me in this whole thing is that for a good number of them, the U.S. forces were always part of the system.
Right. We tried that in many countries.
So again, whatever. I don't even remember where we started on this one. Last call. I'm about to pee my pants.
All right, now.
I mean, you got anything? One more? We got time?
Oh, but I did hear some interesting stuff. I mean, if you want to pause and go take a tinkle.
All right. You got something to say. I like it.
Yeah, it was kind of interesting. I think they did there was a study done, I think even going back to like World War I, World War II, Vietnam, and et cetera, they found, a lot of, soon they went off of accounts, but there were a number of people, they found proof that basically people were shooting like over the heads of the enemy. Where they were, acting as if they were, fighting in war, but they
didn't want to do it.
Right, didn't want to go forward with it.
But they couldn't get out of service, per se.
Right.
And so they went through the motions, but never did the...
Right. I mean, there were people who literally shot themselves in the foot to get out of battle.
I don't know what I do. I'm glad... I don't know. It'd be easy if it's my house. Like if somebody came kicking in my front door. It's not a hard conversation for me to have in my own head. But, yeah.
And that's one thing America has been kind of blessed, and I wonder if it's kind of changed our morale. I mean, even like World War II, I mean, there wasn't really too many countries that, you had the British that were getting bombed left and right.
Yeah.
To where, they had the whole, keep calm, carry on type mentality where they just were going into the tunnels and they just got used to being bombed and just cities just being in ruins.
Right.
Or some cities being in ruins from being just constantly bombed. I mean, it's still find, even from World War I, you still see the trenches that were dug for World War I throughout the countryside. The old, German bunkers. I mean, cities were just kind of laid to ruin.
Yeah, and I mean, you could find. I mean, go back to prior stuff, or we just don't have that here.
Right. I mean, Civil War was the last thing that really touched our land.
Yeah.
Sorry, World War II. The Japanese did have, I forget what they called it, but it was
the
hot air balloons. Yeah. And they did, I believe. I guess Alaska was only a territory at the time.
Well, the Germans,
they weren't officially a U.S. state, but I think there was some fighting in the Aleutian Islands, the little string of islands that come off the tip of Alaska.
Right, and the Germans made it to, they had U-boats around Florida and stuff like that. But we
I heard they actually found one in the Gulf of Mexico. There was an interesting thing I saw about it because there was I guess we did have some patrols there just in case. There was a guy that, for years claimed that he sunk a German U-boat. Everybody just thought that he was lying. I think he may have even gotten in trouble for it from the military. And they were like, no, you've lied, blah, 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 blah. And I think they, in the past, 15, 20 years or so, they
That
actually
sucks. That's a rough
sonar
life.
and fine. I could be wrong. I don't know if he actually got in trouble for it. I think he just wasn't
Either
believed.
way, nobody believed him. I mean,
But I'm
even
sure
that-
it went in his official report that hey, we shot a torpedo and we sunk a U-boat. I guess at the time, nobody was going to go diving for it, and they were like, what the hell are you talking about? You didn't sink a German U-boat.
Crazy.
Yeah.
That sucks. I feel bad for that guy.
Yeah, I don't know if he died before it was ever recognized.
I hope
it wouldn't,
he
it wouldn't
made it.
surprise me if he was of age then.
I hope he made it. That's a bummer if he didn't. All right, man. I don't know. I want to have just a pin. I want to put a pin in the conversation. I want to, next time we have all four of us here, I want to have a conversation on what the point of this is. Because I'm curious what everybody's answers are.
Point of?
Just everybody getting together and doing the show. When we do the show.
Oh, the point of the show.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a considerable issue.
No, because mine, I mean, and I'd like to have I really do think we need to have a healthcare conversation. Not that our viewpoints are, not realistically, not that any of our viewpoints matter on it, but I think I think that's one of the things that's worth talking about.
We've got a number of those issues that we keep kind of putting off that we're going to sit down and talk about.
Well, because I think it's complicated.
Function of government.
It's complicated, and I that's what's frustrating. I get it. I do. Like, I think I get the premise that it's complicated and it's hard to think, and it's like trying to simplify and to go back to early shows where I it's like simplify it for me. Like, that was kind of my stance, and it's like, no, don't simplify it for me, but let's figure out how to talk about it and not use complicated as a cop out to not talking about it. Yes, we're going to go down a tangent on a thing, and that particular thing may not have a real big impact on the overall view, but it's a thing. And like, how else do we go about taking it apart? Like, we have to figure out a starting point to start taking it apart.
I think you do kind of have to take it piece by piece,
right?
Kind of subsection by section, or
right?
Section by section.
Right. We got to figure out what the pieces are and how to narrow. Like, we just got to figure out how to whittle it down. And it's not to simplify it, but we got to take the branches.
Right. And with healthcare, you've got everything from administration to actually administering the care, to outpatient care, to billing, to funding of it.
Right. Because again, another one to throw on top of that is the U.S. life expectancy is down. We have the biggest, largest, most expensive healthcare system on the planet, and life expectancy is going down.
I want to say, I think I just read that Alabama, just for the first time ever, their death rate exceeded birth rate.
There's a joke there, but I'll leave it alone.
Roll Tide? Oh.
Yeah, but the question is what is their immigration rate?
I did see. I can't remember when exactly it was from. I think it might have been like a Vice News thing where they went around and they had a hardcore, anti-immigration thing that
not U.S. immigration. What is their immigration rate into the state of Alabama?
Right.
Be it from Mexico or from Tennessee or from New York. What is their immigration rate?
I mean, with much of the U.S., there's a large chunk of just undocumented.
No, that's what I'm saying at all. I'm saying,
I know you want actual documented numbers of people coming into the state, right?
But people coming into the state in the sense of all people coming into the state, whether they're from a neighboring state or a state across the country, because like, again, going to the reference of like we have a ton of people coming into Tennessee from New York, from Chicago, or from Illinois, from Florida, apparently, and from other states. Like, is the total population of Alabama going down, even though their birth rate is under their death rate? Probably not. I'd be curious to know that number too. Just random side tangent. Anyway, all right, let's shut it down. Let's call it a day. Are you going to do the outro for me?
No, thanks.
Come on. All right, fine. Almost in agreement. Hey, guys, we're Almost in Agreement. AlmostInAgreement@gmail.com. Find us on Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube. Go to our website, almostinagreement.com. While you're there, check out all the cool stuff we got going on there. All the episodes are there. The city election cheat sheet's there. That's at almostinagreement.com/cityelections21. Links to all the candidates' websites, as well as KGIS and Knox County Election Commission. Go to your favorite podcast provider. Please subscribe, follow, whatever the thing is that they do. Give us a best review possible. You don't have to say nice things, just do the highest number of things. So if it's 5 stars, give us 5 stars and then tell us we suck. That's fine with me. Facebook, YouTube, all that kind of stuff. Like, share, help us out. I mean, you know, we're trying to figure out things. I think we're hitting on topics and conversations at the normal people level. And I think that's important. I think that's what's missing. I think I'm a little drunk. Anyway.
Cheers to that.
Almost agreement, bitches. We do what we do. A special thanks to lil'E for his input at the beginning of the show.